Good morning. You're tuning in to the Board of County Commissioners Agenda Setting Work Session. It is Tuesday, March 8th, 2022. It is 9:01 a.m. This is a virtual meeting. For public attendance, you may follow along on the Thurston County YouTube channel or join by calling 360-252-9020, PIN number 1234. We'll start today with our setting item, which is a COVID-19 update. I see Kurt and Dr. Akmalik.
Yeah, good morning, Commissioners. Kurt Harden, Interim Director of Public Health and Social Services. We're again over 2 years into the COVID response. Right now, the total case count in Thurston County is 45,890. That's been since the start of the pandemic. Unfortunately, the Thurston County deaths are 385, and again, since the start of the pandemic. Our 14-day average case rate per 100,000 is 255.7 as of March 6th. To give you some perspective, last week when I reported it was 640.5, and the week before that it was 1,280.1. So it is definitely trending in the right direction, in the direction we feel good about. For our hospitalizations, our current COVID patients in the hospitals are 25. Last week it was 24, but 2 weeks ago it was 38. So right now it's hovering right around 24, 25 over the last 2 weeks. The number on ventilators is 3, and last week the number on ventilators was 5. And our ICU bed capacity is 6 adult and 0 pediatric. And our acute bed availability is 12 adult and 0 pediatric. And then for congregate care outbreaks, I have 185 congregate care outbreaks since March of 2020, and currently we have 22 congregate care outbreaks that are under investigation. Now for the vaccine status, this is as of March 5th, and vaccine doses given in Thurston County is 504,555. For the percent of people initiating vaccination in Thurston County, at 71.6%. The percent of people fully vaccinated is 64.8%. And then the percent of people initiating vaccination age 16 and older is 81.3%. And then the percentage of people fully vaccinated at age 16 and older is 73.7%. Going down to the age 5, percent of the population initiating vaccine over the age of 5 is 75.7%. And then the percent of population that's fully vaccinated, age 5 and older, is 68.5%. And then the percent of people who are eligible to receive the booster, not percent, the number of people eligible to receive the booster is standing right now over 98,000. Some additional items, vaccination. We continue to work and staff our vaccine clinic in Capitol Mall. It runs 5 days a week. And the days it's not open is Tuesdays and Wednesdays, so it runs Thursday through Monday for vaccinations. Then today there's a vaccine clinic at McLean Black Lake Fire Station 91. And again, we continue to encourage people to schedule an appointment for vaccine or vaccination on the website, but also walk-ins are definitely welcome. For testing, yesterday we tested at the Tenino Quarry House and Rainier Sportsman's Club. Today, we're testing in Rochester at the roof parking lot next to the Boys and Girls Club. Tomorrow, we'll be at Lacey at 3811 Pacific Avenue, and Thursday in Olympia at the Union Gospel Mission for testing, and then on Friday at the Evergreen State College. All testing sites are open from 10 to 1, but if there's a demand for testing and they run out of supplies or meet their limit, they may have to close earlier if the capacity is reached. The other part I'm going to talk a little bit about is the revised state masking requirements. They go into effect at midnight on March 11th, so effectively on March 12th. Just a reminder, certain sectors are still going to be required to be masked, such as an example is healthcare settings, congregate care setting, potentially others. And then we are waiting on LNI revised rules regarding masking requirements for employers. Those are supposed to be out today from my understanding. And now I'd like to turn over to Dr. Abdulmalik for additional information.
Good morning, commissioners. We are cautiously optimistic and encouraged by the overall trends in COVID-19 transmission in our county and indeed across the state over the past few weeks. While I just wanted to take a moment and just remind the public that while the requirement for masking in certain settings will be lifted at 11:59 on March 11th, people should still feel, so what that means is that individuals and families can think about their risk factors and as well as community transmission rates, and people can decide to choose to continue to wear their masks as well. The big change that's coming has more to do with a requirement rather, so that while the requirements are lifted, different people are going to have different risk profiles and can think about and can consider those situations as it pertains to their individual situation. Just a reminder that healthcare settings and congregate care settings will still have a mask requirement in place due to the risk of transmission in those settings. And with that, I'm open to any questions you may have. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
I might have a question for Kurt. Of the 3 on ventilators, we've got a area hospital here. Is that just Thurston County residents or is that the service area? So
I don't have that information. I don't know, maybe Dr. Abdelmalek, I don't know if you have that information. So we'll see if we can attempt to get that information, but I'm not sure that would be information that might be available due to the nature of the identifying people from Thurston County versus others, but we'll see if we can get that.
Thank you.
Questions, Commissioner Menser?
Dr. A, with all these changes, is there something coming with respect to schools in terms of like their distance, like, not just the mask or not mask, but other dynamics within the school, like, how far the kids should be away from each other and things like that? I've been getting some questions about that.
So we're anticipating the release of that document today, which would cover the changes in schools starting on Saturday. But most folks are anticipating starting the rollout next Monday.
So does that come from L&I or is that coming from some other quarter?
So it comes from Department of Health. Often it's informed by, so the requirements for staff are reviewed by L&I before it gets into the DOH guidance. However, and we're also anticipating Labor and Industries guidance shortly as well.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. And I don't have any questions, so thank you, Kurt. Thank you, Dr. A. Okay, moving on, homeless strategies. And I see Keely Marino.
Good morning, Commissioners. Keely Marino with Public Health and Social Services with a brief update today. Commissioner Edwards, you'll be glad to know that our office did hear back from Department of Transportation regarding the refuse or garbage on the side of the hill that you've been concerned about for some time. They apparently are very backlogged for those kinds of efforts to clear garbage from roadsides. They said that they will go out and look at it, and that if there's no one living there, it will go on their list to get cleaned. And if not, if there is someone living there, they'll work with the City of Olympia on that matter and then clean it. Last week, you're welcome. Last week on Anson Road on Thursday, there was a cleanup. So not a sweep, but just a cleanup. City of Olympia staff were out there for, I believe, 2 days to remove extra garbage from that roadside encampment. And then the Homeless Crisis Response Plan work group met yesterday to start working on our 22-22, clarifying the strategies for 22-22 and coming up with a work plan. So that work is well underway. And that is all I have for you today.
Thank you, Keely. Questions? Commissioner Edwards,
No questions, thank you.
Commissioner Menzer,
No, thank you.
and I don't have questions either, Keely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next, review the Board of County Commissioners draft agenda for our meeting March 8th. And I received an updated copy this morning. Do all the commissioners have that updated copy? Okay, so with that, we'll call the meeting to order at 2 p.m. The Pledge of Allegiance to be led by Vice Chair Menzer, approval of the Tuesday, March 8th, 2022 agenda, and approval of the board meeting minutes from February 22, 2022 and March 1st, 2022. Okay, moving on, there's an opportunity for the public to address the board. Number 2 is a county manager's update. County manager?
Yes, I'd like to follow up on a couple public testimonies you received last week, and I will go in more detail later on your agenda today.
Okay. With that, we'll go on to consent items. Item 3, which is only one, and it's the auditor's voucher list for the week of February 21, 2022. Any questions, comments regarding that? Okay, and then we'll move on to department items, and it's central services, and it's a purchase agreement with Western Building Material Association.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. This is a new item that you did not review. It was not included on your review of last week. But this is the result of many conversations the board had related to this particular opportunity for the county to purchase a building here at the 909 Lake Ridge Drive in Olympia. That's parcel number 46 83 000 0600. I think I added an extra 0 there. So, and I guess that's for you to take a formal action to direct the staff to get into a purchase agreement so we can process the purchase of this building. For the members of the public, there has been a discussion on this with the board and in a couple of executive sessions. This is not new, so it's not new for the board members, obviously. And this building is located here at the corner at the courthouse campus. And with this purchase, if the board approves it, then it will complement the whole block. It will be part of the campus. Any questions?
Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
No questions, thank you.
Commissioner Menzer?
No questions. I won't be voting in favor, but that's fine.
Okay. Moving on to item 5A, which is a commissioner's item, Nisqually Tribe Interlocal Agreement for Broadband Expansion.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. You reviewed this item last week, and this is related to an interlocal agreement with the Nisqually Tribe to partner into broadband projects, and particularly in the South County. This particular interlocal agreement includes $500,000 that it comes from the American Rescue Plan funds. This has been part of your discussion, and you did set aside for broadband on an overall plan of the ARPA funds, in which also the board agreed to release $500,000 to start working on the specifics within this Nisqually Tribe. Last week, you had questions related to the local agreement. So before I get into the details of the ILA, Jenica Machado is here, our economic development manager, she has been working on this ILA as well as coordinating with the Nisqually Tribe, and she can probably give you a additional perspective as to how we come to the point for the board to consider this interlocal agreement with the Nisqually Tribe. Jenica?
Hi, good morning. Sorry, I'm losing my voice a little bit if I sound unusual this morning, but thank you, Ramiro. So the Nisqually ILA has been drafted to include the subrecipient amendment that has been previously discussed, I believe, with some of the other ARPA allocations. And this ILA allows for our partnership with the Nisqually Tribe, in which they went through a RFP process and will be conducting a countywide broadband coverage survey, and then we'll also be pre-engineering some select routes. And so those are the two main deliverables from this ILA. This ILA is a tool that will allow us to implement that, and the $500,000 that was previously allocated to this project. And I'm free to answer any questions. I apologize that I missed last week's, but I'd be happy to answer anything.
Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
Yes. How do we determine the allocation on this money incrementally or in one big check? How's that the disbursement going to take place as we expend this $500,000?
I believe this will be done on a reimbursable basis. And so we'll only be paying for the actual expenses of the project.
And that is for physical construction? Is that for planning? What's the breakdown on that?
One is the countywide survey, and then the next piece is pre-engineering. And so it will not include any formal engineering, and it will not include any construction.
Has there been a bid out for an engineering outfit to look into this for?
Their RFP process allowed them to select a company to work with.
And is that a bid process?
The RFP process, it was open for anybody to submit their qualifications and their plan for the project. And through that process, they selected the most appropriate entity.
But we did have other entities bidding. Is that what it was, or businesses, or
it was
construction
open.
folks? I don't know what that means. Did we put it out as an RFP?
I don't think that we've had construction bids yet.
Not yet.
We're not at that phase yet.
Even the design. I mean, did we go out for bids? That's
Yes.
okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Edwards. Commissioner Menzer?
So this might be for Jenica. So last week, Jenica, I don't know if you heard the discussion, but there was concern expressed about, if I understood the concern, it's really about, are we entering into an exclusive arrangement? Is what we're doing with this ILA somehow, is it creating roadblocks for other private entities that might want to pursue similar projects or other pieces of the big puzzle, broadband puzzle? I hadn't had a chance to read this before last week's meeting, but I did read it this week. It's not the kind of contract that I'm very familiar with. I didn't see anything in here that really seemed like it had any elements like that, where this agreement we're making with Nisqually would cut off somebody else's ability to do something, or cut off the county's ability to partner with somebody else if the circumstances presented themselves in the future. Am I reading that right? I don't, probably unreasonable question to ask of you, but I don't know who else to ask. I don't know which one of our lawyers reviewed this and if they're available, but I just, I didn't see anything that gave me a great concern, but I did understand. I think Commissioner Edwards was the most articulate in terms of his concerns, and I just wanted to make sure that I'm reading this right in terms of his concerns from last week. And I don't know, maybe Commissioner Edwards, maybe you looked at this more carefully and you're more comfortable with it now. I don't know.
I can't say I've looked at it, but I can't say I'm more comfortable just because of those same questions that you're asking, sir.
Okay.
So I can provide a couple, I don't know if this will fully answer your question, Commissioner Munzer or Commissioner Edwards, but this ILA is specifically with Nisqually. And so they went through their process, the RFP, to select who would be working on the countywide survey and the pre-engineering. And those two projects are really going to lay the foundation for Thurston County to be eligible for upcoming grants in broadband. by being more like shovel ready is how they will call it. And for example, the Washington State Broadband Office grant for broadband says that whoever is the applicant, the main applicant for the WSBO grant, has to own the fiber for 25 years. And so for us, Nisqually is the lead applicant. But if the county were to partner with and be the lead applicant ourselves and be with a for-profit entity, we would then be required to own the fiber ourselves. And so for-profit entities for a WSBO grant are not eligible to be a lead applicant. They have to partner with a nonprofit, county, city, or port.
Okay, that's useful information. So in order to access this funding, there essentially needs to be a governmental type of entity, and this benefits us because it doesn't have to be us. We can help it be the Nisqually tribe. It couldn't be a private company for this particular project. And this ILA, again, I'm just restating what I think I read, which is that it doesn't say, it is what it is. It's an affirmative thing. We're going to do X. It's not saying we're limited to do Y in the future, or we will only do, it doesn't seem to have limitations. It's more just about an affirmative contribution or collaboration on this project.
Right. The scope of this ILA is just the countywide survey and the pre-engineering. And those two specific projects are really going to provide the foundation of data and information that is required to then pursue additional funding that is now and will be available on a state federal level.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Jenica. Commissioner Edwards, did you have one more question?
Just a follow-up on this. Because there are more dollars theoretically coming towards this whole broadband issue, should those dollars come through, we're not necessarily locked in to spending our funds on this if we get other money, right? We're just trying to put some seed money there to make sure that the process gets started. I see Robin nodding her head.
That is correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Because you only set aside ARPA funds, and you only release the 500,000. So what is remainder is really is up to the discretion of the board, really. But you did set aside some without further commitment of beyond the 500,000.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next is information technology, department item 6A, district court, Chandler Court video.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. You reviewed this item last week, and for your consideration is to authorize the Director of Informational Technology Department to enhance and purchase additional equipment to support the Chandler Court facility. Chandler Court is a lease facility that the county is currently leasing. And this is just to continue to do twofold, and in my opinion, one is the response to the COVID-19. We have been leasing this particular facility for a little over a year, if not more. And we also have a commitment to continue to lease this because now it becomes apparent that we need to have additional court capacity to deal with the backlog, which has been the result of the COVID-19 pandemic. This particular item is to authorize to enhance that, to provide additional video and audio equipment. They will really provide a little more flexibility as to how the court system can conduct their business. This particular request amounts to $52,797. What it makes it a little interesting is you have to, I know that Frank is here, give kudos to District Court, because District Court has gone through the process of securing money through the administrative office of the courts to upgrade this. So this really is not a county money in a way. This is a grant that we have received from AOC. And again, the grant is for $55,018. I know that Dennis and Frankie are here to answer any questions.
I'm going to jump in. I would just clarify that the timing of this project does not lend itself to the limitations of the grant. So it is possible that we will have to use a little bit of county money, but that would come from the Trial Court Improvement Fund.
Oh, thank you.
I'm sorry, Robin, can you expand on that?
The grant, and Frankie's going to help me out here, the grant expires before some of the equipment or the software for the project can arrive. And you can only pay for something once it has arrived. So we're going to check and see if we can get the grant extended, but if not, then about, I think it was roughly $5,000 to $10,000, no more than $10,000 will be paid from the Trial Court Improvement Fund.
Yes, that's absolutely correct. And thank you so much, Robin. And we weren't able to get an extension. I just talked to the AOC comptroller yesterday. So there's only one part of the system, the Polycom unit, and that's what we would end up purchasing out of the Trial Court Improvement account. And that would be, as Robin said, 10,000. So we're still on track with all other implementation of the hardware and software to have that done before the 31st for reimbursement to AOC.
Thank you. Commissioner Edwards, questions?
Yes. If we did need to pay for this out of other funds, rather than taking this out of the trial improvement fund, our court fund, why couldn't we use the virus money on this? Because this is all about, I mean, we're doing this because, as the county manager laid out, because of this virus situation.
So we could use $10,000 out of the ARPA money. That would be fine. And we could take it out of the amount that the board has earmarked for court backlog. Otherwise, you would need to see which other of the earmarks you would like to reduce, because that money is, at this point in time, fully earmarked.
Have we dedicated that full $10 million that Congress has allowed us to spend on the shortfall side of things? Have we dedicated that?
There is $3 million that the board has not committed yet, but I would encourage you to use that money on things that you could not otherwise pay for from another source, because that is money that can be used for any government purpose. If you've got another source other than general fund, I would recommend you use it before that $3 million.
Okay, I guess you're saying 3 million. The information that I had seen, I believe it was $10 million that were allowed to be used.
10 million in lost revenue, and 7 million of it is already committed.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Commissioner Edwards. Commissioner Munzer, questions?
No.
I do have a couple questions. Was this expense in the budget, Robin?
So the trial court improvement, the grant was not. You'll see that in your budget amendment. The trial court improvement fund has an appropriation. The court receives an appropriation every year. And then the ARPA money is, there's plenty of an appropriation if we use the ARPA money instead of trial court improvement.
And so we had set aside around, was it 8 million for the court backlog?
Yeah, I'll have to look.
Yeah, thereabouts.
Right
Yeah.
here. The amount that was reserved, you've only released the first $1 million, but the amount reserved for the court backlog is 6.7 million. So
That's the remainder after the 1 million, is that correct, Robin?
Yes.
Yeah.
So you could release another 10,000 of that,
Okay, and when does this grant expire?
June 30. It's at the end of the state fiscal year, which
June
is
30th?
why it makes sense that we can't get an extension.
Okay.
I'm so sorry, the AOC CARES funding grant or the other one?
Yeah, the 52,000.
That one is March 31st.
March 31st. Thank you.
Sorry.
Oh, that's,
Really fast.
we really need to get expedited shipping then.
With supply chain issues have gotten in the way of many, many things.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Those were my questions. Okay, if there are no further questions, we'll move on. Thank you, Frankie. Thank you, Dennis. To Public Health and Social Services. Item 7A, contract for rent and utility assistance with Live Stories. And I see Tom Oxer. Go ahead, County Manager.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a new item for you this week, and you did not have the chance to review this because this is an item that is moving rather quickly. Just to put in perspective, are you well aware that we have embarked on rental assistance, utility assistance for the last few years with Community Action Council? I don't want to get into the details related to the issues with Community Action Council, but the result of that is on February 24, the Board of County Commissioners, the majority who were present, suspended the contract with utility rental assistance and utility assistance to the citizens. So through that process, there is two parallel processes that we need to address. One is the findings that we had on the cyber safety monitoring report that is on its way. The county auditor, Mary Hall, is taking the lead on that with the Community Action Council Board. But always we knew that we need to do something to address the gap of the services for those individuals who continue to be in need to get rental assistance and utility assistance from the county as a result of we receiving money from the state and federal level. So through this process, we have been working diligently, and Tom, have to give you kudos to that, to you for in the last week you have done, and Robin as well, an expedited process as to how we can find a vendor that actually we can continue to do and provide services in terms of rental assistance and utility assistance. The city of Spokane and Skagit County, as well as Yakima County, use live stories. They have used live stories, as well as the Washington State Department of Commerce used this outfit, specifically to the local jurisdictions, Spokane, Skagit, and Yakima. They used to distribute the rental assistance and utility assistance to citizens. And the Department of Commerce, they use this outfit to manage their data related to the same issue. So in order for us to utilize and expedite this contract, we need to piggyback into another jurisdiction who has already gone through the bidding process. And where we piggyback on the contract the city of Spokane has with live stories. And in order to have a piggyback, we need to have a new local agreement with the city of Spokane, which we do. And we have a new local agreement to partner on those contracts. And that was when we had, I believe, the ERP funding or the Questica, whatever. One of the applications that we partnered with the city of Spokane to build on this partnership. So we have a little local agreement with Spokane, and we can piggyback on this contract. We have gone through the due diligence to determine this is the great outfit for this point to help us meet the gap of continue to provide services, rental assistance and utility assistance to the citizens who are in need. This particular contract has up to, and I'd like to highlight that up to $5 million. That doesn't mean that we have a commitment to go to $5 million. And this is give us the latitude that in the event that we can resolve the issues with Community Action Council, we can give a short notice to this outfit and as to how we can terminate this contract. But at least from the staff point of view, it is imperative at this point the board consider approving this contract so we can move forward and provide assistance to the citizens and residents in Thurston County who are in need of rental and utility assistance. Tom, Robin?
I don't have any, Tom Webster with Public Health and Social Services. I don't have anything to add. I think that's an excellent summary, but happy to help answer any questions.
Same.
Thank you. Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
Has someone actually talked with the jurisdictions that are utilizing this outfit? So that you've had personal conversation, yeah, everything's been smooth, yeah, they follow the audit, whatever. We had those.
I have had conversations with a representative from Skagit, so I did talk to them. So I have talked to Skagit. I've had emails back and forth with City of Spokane, and we're scheduled to meet on Monday. And then I've also had conversations with Yakima County. Their contract has just started. So Yakima County is relatively new with Live Stories. So they're just up and running, but they've also had successful experience. I also spoke with Kitsap County, who used this outfit to help with some of the backlog that they had. So yes, I have spoken with multiple counties about this outfit.
We've also spoken with the Washington State Department of Commerce that used this company, and they were satisfied with their performance and actually recommended them to us.
Okay, one other thing, because I have to read the motion if I do so. The name of this outfit is, and then give me the DBA in small caps. What are we talking about there?
Doing business as.
Okay. And the pronunciation of that outfit, it looks like a Geico insurance outfit or something.
It does. And that's a good question. I have not actually heard them say their name out loud. So
Okay,
I will reach out and try to
Echo.
Yeah, Geico.
That was my concern. Ty, so.
Geico, yeah.
Okay, well, if you can come up with something, Tom, it'll.
I will ask for a phonetic pronunciation and try to get that to you.
If all fails, you may want to spell it.
Yeah.
Just
Okay.
for the
good
record.
enough. Okay.
Live Stories. That's how you say it.
Yeah, thank you.
Commissioner Menser?
Thank you. I think a couple questions I had got answered. Ramiro said that this is not binding us to any amount of dollars or amount of time. If the auditor is able to work issues through with Community Action Council, we can pivot back. But I guess a little more, diving a little deeper there, is this covering, I understood that we had like 4 different contracts with Community Action Council or 4 different programs. Is this covering all of that bundle, or are they still working on some piece of what we contracted with them to do? I can't remember how that laid out. Tom, do you know?
Yeah, so we have, in total, there were 4 contracts with Community Action Council for rental assistance. We had the TRAP 1 contracts that we received directly from Treasury and also through Commerce. Those 2 contracts are essentially spent out and have finished. And then we have our TRAP 2 contracts, again, one that's with our direct Treasury money and a second through Commerce. The money that we have directly from Commerce is getting close to being spent out, and we're kind of reserving that remaining money for their February invoice because we don't know exactly what they've spent in February. So this funds is the TRAP 2 from Commerce funding that we are comfortable is still remaining in the contract. So there's a little bit of uncertainty in terms of until we get their February invoice of how much money they've spent. But essentially the last remaining contract is the TRAP 2 Commerce funding that remains.
Okay, and then connected to that is, and this might be for the county manager, but applications that were submitted and pending at the time of the suspension, are those going to be funneled from CAC to this outfit? Like, it seemed like there was a snag there, and I'm wondering if that snag has been worked through, or are we still trying to figure out how we're managing those pending applications?
Yeah, that is a good point, Commissioner Menzer. And in fact, we're in constant communication with CAC to give us the data as to what applications were considered to be right on the cusp of the limbo, that perhaps they were already approved, but the checks were not issued. So we have sent a request for information in the last couple of days. We'll continue to reach out to Community Action Council to get that data, because that is something that we need to address, as you pointed out, Commissioner.
And then I would just add on to that, sorry, that within our contract with Life Stories, we require them to prioritize those applicants. So those applicants would get priority under this application for service.
Okay, well, I know there's a lot of folks that need this processing to happen. I've been contacted by some myself, and I know my seatmates have as well. So I think we don't have a choice but to bridge this gap and then hopefully get all these different issues worked out. Madam Chair, I'm done. Thanks.
Chair Edwards, you have a follow-up?
Yeah, my follow-up is, I didn't get a definite answer on if they've gotten back to us or not with the information we need for those in limbo. Where are we at on that?
As of yesterday, we have not received that information back.
I mean, can somebody make a phone call and make this happen a little faster than texting back and forth? Because we do have people in limbo out there that possibly are in jeopardy. So I'm trying to understand the delay.
Yeah,
that's
so
all.
we're making just about every single effort to have that information back from CAC, Commissioner. And we'll attempt a phone call, another series of emails, and I don't want to get too much into the details of the responses related to that request, but we have not received that information that we have requested.
Okay, thank you.
My question as a follow-up to that, Ramiro, is can we have another executive session, just because I've been keeping up to date with kind of how this has been moving forward, but I think it would be wise to have the other commissioners up to date as well on kind of the moving pieces. And I know there's a lot of moving pieces in this. So is there a possibility that in the future we could schedule maybe a 30-minute executive session to just kind of discuss the updates that are going on?
Yes, on point, Madam Chair. And in fact, I have one scheduled for next Wednesday.
Perfect. Thank you.
Next or this coming?
Next Wednesday.
Okay. There are no more questions for that. And Commissioner Edwards, I wouldn't stress about, it's Commissioner Menzer who reads the motions. And
Yeah, great. I jumped the gun on that. I was filling in the past, and so I was just being cautious.
Okay.
He was so eager to do that.
Yeah. Right.
Our next item B, is amendment. Thank you, Tom. Amendment to extend the Thurston County Chamber Foundation Thurston Thrives Backbone Support Contract for 1 year.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is an item that you have visited and discussed for the last couple of weeks. And in fact, last Thursday, we had a conversation with the Chambers Foundation, which is the fiduciary responsibility of Thurston Thrives. And I believe that you continue to have these conversations over the weekend. You had an editorial from the Olympian related to this matter. I can just give you my perspective. I don't think the editorial was on point. I don't think the editorial board of the Olympian did the due diligence to explore further what the new governance of the Thurston Thrives is planning to do in this upcoming year. So I just leave it at that point. I am not going to go back and revisit or paraphrase what you hear from the Chambers Foundation, David Schaffer, as well as Doug Ma. And let me read a little bit of an additional perspective. And I think what is the value? Continues to be the question, and sometimes putting our hands around on the value in a very comprehensive program is very difficult. So I think my perspective from this is really whether the county is committed to improve the health outcomes in our community. And that's really what the question for you, commissioners, this morning. And the county health rankings, as you may remember, before Thurston Thrives was involved, Thurston County was ranked 14 in 2012. Since we started having a comprehensive approach with Thurston Thrives, the key on the health outcomes of our community, by 2019, Thurston County was at the top 5 on the health rankings across the state. Although in the last couple of years, and you can imagine why we have dropped a little bit on the pandemic related, we still have on the highest level of health factors, number 6. So I know that this is a point of larger conversation. You need to have what I recommend the board is for you to consider approving this amendment and see how the new governance works for this upcoming year. And then at that point, we'll have the opportunity for you to reassess again if the long-term partnership and the long-term commitment to enhance the health outcomes of our community is something the board may like to consider. And Chris Hawkins is here to answer additional questions.
Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
I don't know who's got the answer to this. I have talked with the chamber folks, and I know their heart's in the right spot, but it isn't very often the Olympian writes an editorial that I agree with. And I did have those same questions. I do have those same questions, to be honest with you. And I know that some of the issues brought out, just in reference to that editorial, were some of the teams maybe have dropped aside or are no longer relevant and that type of thing. I just wonder if it wouldn't be better for us, if we couldn't make a better decision, if we really had a better picture of what is moving forward. I get a concept of what's moving forward, possibly, but I don't know. Are we shrinking it down so some of those teams that were not active, or it was a pie in the sky request that really wasn't quite relevant? I still have questions about the overall benefit and whether we end up just at another meeting. So I'll let it ride there for a while. I'm not sure I'm there yet, but I'll listen to my seatmates.
Commissioner Menser?
Well, I did read that editorial. It was interesting. The same questions that were asked there and that my seatmates had last week, I asked those same questions 2 years ago. And the organization, I think, recognized some of those concerns. And my understanding, kind of along the lines of what the county manager says, is they've spent a year refocusing and retooling their structure. They're narrowing their focus to race disparities in health outcomes, and I think that any attention that we can put on that issue right now is a positive. So I'm willing to give them a year, kind of aligned to what the county manager just said. I'm willing to give them a year to see what they can accomplish with this new structure and this new focus, and definitely willing to have this conversation next year if we don't feel like we got the value that we anticipated. But given the history and the evolution of this in my time on the board, I'm willing to go forward with this for this year.
And Commissioner Edwards, I'm kind of right there with you, right? I did read the editorial as well. As we received some public comments, I didn't know it had come out, and then I went and checked it out. But I understand, why they did this whole restructure. I know I've been somewhat vocal about, you know, the purpose of Thurston Thrives. And so for me, it's, you know, I'm willing to give it one more year to see how this restructure will work, but I'm going to be very hard at the end of this year, because I will be asking, you know, what was accomplished with that. Because I'm not doing this really lightly. And I'm doing it to see, you know, if this restructure works. Because I have the same questions and same concerns you do. That's kind of where I'm at. It's a long-winded way to say, yes, I agree with everything that's been said.
So what I'm hearing is this item will remain on the agenda for final consideration this afternoon.
I heard Commissioner Menser and Commissioner Edwards. How are you feeling? Are you comfortable with it, or do you want to?
I'm not comfortable with it. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, if I had a little better understanding, maybe I would be, but I'm just not there yet. That's the problem.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm at. It's kind of a funny dilemma that I find myself in. We're kind of switching roles here on where we're normally at in regard to that editorial, because I have to say that surprised me. I had no idea that I would find myself in that position. So anyway, so that's kind of where I'm at. I'm in no hurry. I don't know if it's a big rush. I don't know the particulars in that regard. If this is something that needs to be done today.
Is
Okay.
it time sensitive? Yeah.
Yeah, it is time sensitive. It is a contract for this year, 2022.
Yeah, okay.
And we're into March. And if the board doesn't want to support this, and then you just need to make a decision. But my recommendation is for you to consider give the new structure a chance, because as Commissioner Menser stated, they have spent a lot of time and effort to respond to some of the issues even some of you highlighted in the last year. And this is a response to that. And I myself, I have been involved in working with the Chamber Foundation of the new structure. So I am somewhat, advocating for this, because I believe there is an opportunity to see how that works.
Chair?
Go ahead, sir.
I might just comment on the racial disparity issue. I thought we just put, I don't know, $150,000 towards a review last week on something similar to that.
It was not related to health disparities.
That was a homeless response system, and
Oh, okay. Okay, I thought that was part of the issue. Okay, sorry about that.
So, County Manager, I'll push back a little because, you know, yes, we are into March, but, you know, the commissioners just reviewed this on the 22nd of February. So, you know, it's not like we've been having discussion on week's end about this item. And so I understand it's a contract for this year. But, you know, we were presented with it, and then we just had a discussion last Thursday with the Chamber Foundation about it.
Chair, could I make a comment?
Yeah, go ahead, sir.
One thing I was curious about that could come out, you know, with additional info, which groups or teams, organizations, which groups are there and are going along with this, and which groups are, say, dropping out or are no longer in there. I don't know the answer to that. And I don't know if that has been drafted out completely or not. I know the concept. I know the chamber is working hard to make this work, but I just don't know really what the end result looks like. So, and I don't know if you can quantify certain things. I mean, it's a global issue for global warming, for an example. So do we really help the health of our citizens by doing something here locally, because the air just moves on and it comes back around the globe from China or wherever? I'm just using that as kind of a wild example that I really don't have a good understanding when I get asked by my constituents, well, what is happening with this? Well, I don't have a good answer. I know people are trying. People with their heart in the right spot are trying, but we end up having to make tough decisions on dollars. So anyway, this is a current expense issue, and I'm always good. I probably scrutinize current expense more than most. Anyway, I hope I gave you time to think about that, Chair. I was just trying to fill a void. Go ahead.
Chris might know a little bit about the action team statuses that Commissioner Edwards was asking about. Just guessing.
Yes, I think in some of the materials that the Chamber Foundation presentation or briefing last week provided did have the list of the action teams. And I guess the change from that list, which includes 8 teams in it, ranging from the community design team that I work on and climate and clean energy, to economy, housing, food, and I believe public safety and justice is still active, although that was always a pre-existing Law and Justice Council relationship. And then there's the Partners for Children, Youth, and Families action team. The clinical care team is the one where it's been defunct for a while. Pieces of that have been revived in the form of the Thurston County Opioid Task Force, but the overall clinical care team has not been active for some time. So that would be the one of those 8 that is not current, and the other action teams are all in some way, shape, or form continuing their efforts. So that's just quick information about that.
Chair?
Go ahead, sir.
On that opioid issue that Chris brought up, I know we've got a briefing coming up to see where we're at here locally on that opioid issue that the chair of the health board has put on the agenda. I don't know when that's exactly coming up.
The 22nd.
22nd? So there's actually more information to come, if you will. I mean, even when you talk about clean energy and all that, everybody does want clean energy, but we see what pushing clean energy too fast, getting ahead of technology, gets us in a bad situation throughout the world. Who gets hurt when the price of gas goes up? It's not me. It's not any of us in this room, probably. But boy, there's a lot of people out there that are going to be hurting severely about inability to purchase fuel, for an example, whether it's to heat their home or to drive their vehicle. It's those folks in that marginal group that end up really suffering and paying the bill. So I've just got general concerns, and I'll just let it go at that. Thank you, ma'am.
You know, I guess if we live this item, you know, I will want to see measurable outcomes that the county is getting, you know, by the end of this year. Because like Commissioner Edwards say, you know, we also have a responsibility of these funds, and I've been getting so many questions about this contract, and it's disappointing when you can't even respond right, or you know, or show something for the investment you've been making over the years. And I know that a lot of these action teams have grown into their own functional bodies where they don't need Thurston Thrives to keep meeting and to keep working on different items. So, you know, I understand that they have kind of their, I forgot the word that they used.
The new governance proposal?
Yeah, the guiding light that they say.
The
that,
North Star.
Yeah, the North Star. Thank you, Chris. That they want all these teams to follow. You know, but I'm concerned with, you know, I understand there are several ways where teams will try to make this fit, but I know that there's also other work that these action teams are working on, where, you know, the North Star will be even more difficult to make fit, and kind of trying to push it down, you know, to make it fit. I know it's a struggle, and you know, I heard that feedback, how it's been a struggle to trying to adapt to fitting in within, you know, trying to follow this North Star with different action teams. So I'm willing to move it forward, but those are going to be kind of my not demands, but my, you know, my conditions. I will want to see measurable outcomes by the end of the year. I'm not sure if this needs to be a presentation or what it needs to be. But I'm doing this, you know, not wholeheartedly. I'm not. So with that, if there's no more additional comments or questions, we'll move forward. Seeing none. Thank you, Chris. Okay, next item, interlocal agreement with Thurston Mason Behavioral Health Administrative Services Organization for Criminal Justice Treatment Account Funds.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You reviewed this item last week. We currently have an interlocal agreement with the Thurston Mason Behavioral Health Administrative Services Organization, where we use an annual allocation from the Criminal Justice Treatment Account. That funding comes from the State Healthcare Authority. And this funding needs to be spent on substance use disorder treatment and recovery support services for individuals involved in the criminal justice system. The Thurston Mason Behavioral Health Administrative Services Organization provides those services. And this particular amendment to the current interlocal agreement is to add $30,000 from the CJTA account to their current contract for a total of $105,000. And the performance of this contract will be continue to be from July 1st, 2021 to June 30th, 2022. Carrie Henning is here to add additional perspective. Answer any questions?
Good morning, Commissioners. Carrie Henning, Public Health and Social Services. Nothing to add, but happy to answer any questions.
Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
Yes, just I want to clarify. So we've dedicated 75,000 already out of this fund. We're just bumping this up 30 out of this fund. Is that right?
Right.
That's correct. Yep.
Let me just ask a real quick question, because this is funded on 1/10 of 1% sales tax, I believe. Is that right? Or?
No, this is the other much smaller hat I wear. So the next item that we'll talk about, and most of my work, is treatment sales tax. CJTA, as the county manager said, comes from the State Healthcare Authority, much smaller pot of money.
Oh, but it's dedicated money, right? It's dedicated.
Correct.
So it
substance
like
use.
We're not taking it from the general fund or anything. We're taking it and moving, just adding to the budget 30,000 out of that fund. Got it. Thank you.
Correct. Yep.
Questions, Commissioner Menser?
No questions.
No questions. Thank you, Carrie. Okay, moving on to item D, interlocal agreement with Thurston Mason Behavioral Health Administrative Services Organization for treatment sales tax funds. And Carrie? is here. County Manager, go ahead.
Yeah, this is Commissioner Edwards. This is the treatment sales tax fund. This is the 1/10 of 1%. During the biennial conversation, you've reviewed the allocations for the treatment sales tax as a result of the recommendations from the TST Advisory Committee. One of which recommendations, which is included on the approved 2022-2023 budget, is to provide $5,952,357 from the TST to the Thurston Mason Behavioral Health Administrative Services Organization. This particular item for you is really the instrument related to the decisions you made during the budget process. The programs that be funded through this agreement will serve both youth and adult with behavioral health needs and are delivered in a variety of settings, including schools, the juvenile detention facility, the Thurston County Correctional Facility, community-based treatment facilities, and programs serving individuals experiencing homelessness. And again, Carrie is here to answer any additional questions or any questions. No addition.
Thank you. Good summary. Again, you talked about the specific programs funded that TST funds in partnership with the Thurston Mason BHASO, and this is the instrument to get those funds to the ASO.
Thank you, Karen. Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
I would just ask Carrie, what was it last year, the dollar amount that we put in there? Is it very similar?
Similar. So in 2021, it was $2.5 million. What's before you is a 2-year agreement of almost $6 million. So it is an increase. And I can tell you there were several new programs. And again, the advisory committee discussed this and you discussed this through the budget deliberations. A couple of those new programs. So one is a co-responder program with the Thurston County Sheriff's Office. There's additional funding to expand intensive treatment services for youth. So there's some additional funds there. There's funding for crisis response devoted to some of the homeless encampments, working in partnership with the OLIMAP team. So there is some kind of new and expanded programming.
I guess my question might be to Robin about, is that sales tax revenue remaining, is it still climbing a bit as it was, I don't know, last year? It was pretty, I don't think it's stabilized. Has it stabilized or dropped off a little bit now, hasn't it?
It has not stabilized, but it has dropped off as we anticipated it would. So it's not climbing at the just incredible rate that it was last year, but we knew it would not continue to do that. So it's still, though, on a increase.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Menser, questions? Okay, thank you, Carrie. And I apologize. I do have, there's cleanup from the HOA at the Greenbelt today. So if you hear bangs, and it's them. Okay, so next on is Public Works and Department, and it's the resolution granting a non-exclusive franchise to the Elt Inlet Community Water Association for a water system within Thurston County rights-of-way. And A and B are somewhat connected. They're from a public hearing. County Manager, I'll pass it on.
Yes, Madam Chair. Items A and 8B are similar in nature. On both, the Board of County Commissioners held a public hearing on February 22nd, where you consider approving a franchise agreement, in this case for item 8A, for a non-inclusive franchise of Elt Inlet Community Water, and for 8B, which is a non-exclusive franchise for Scott Lake Maintenance Company. The board did not receive any public testimony, and also you follow up on an action approving both applications at that time on February 22nd, after the public hearing was held. So this is the next step in the process, is for you to consider a resolution granting the non-exclusive franchise to Inland Community Water under item 8A, and 2, a non-inclusive franchise to a Scott Lake Maintenance Company under item 8B. Chris Sisson is here to answer any questions, provide his own perspective.
Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
No questions, thank you.
Questions, Commissioner Menser?
No, this one's been up there several times.
And I don't either. Thank you, Craig. Okay, moving on to item 8C, resolution and called for sealed bids for the US 12 Urban Improvements Phase 1, Old Highway 99 Southwest to West UGA boundary.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You reviewed this item last week, and the description is a little more prescriptive as to what the intent of this is. And this is for you to consider authorize the Public Works Department to issue a call for bids to secure the services of a contractor to construct a runabout on US 12 and Sargent Road. This project has been, I believe, in your radar for quite some time. At least has been in mine, as well as Public Works, where we have worked very diligently to have a partnership between the Chehalis Tribe, which is contributing financially to this project, as well as the private developers who have also contributed financially to this project. And the remainder is funded by the traffic impact fees, as well as the real estate excise tax due. Last week, and rightfully so, Commissioner Edwards asked the question, where was the partnership from DOT? At some point, they were financially committed to contribute to this particular matter, and for some reason, that funding has not materialized. But the state DOT has been a partner, coordinating with us in terms of working within the right-of-way to implement this project. And at this point, we ask the board to consider authorizing the department to call for bids and secure the services of our contractor. Long time coming.
Okay, questions, Commissioner Edwards?
Is there a latecomers fee attached with this project for development of other properties there?
We didn't get to the point of having a latecomers agreement. I think what we agreed with the private developers is to get an interlocal agreement, an agreement with them as to how the traffic impact fees should be put in place. At this point, and with the option to change that after they have a good plan as to how they plan to develop their property. So that is not a latecomers agreement, but certainly it's an agreement with a private developer that allows for them to upfront the traffic impact fees, with the option for the county to see how that, and in fact, if it's more, well, the developer is willing to pay more. If not, there is an option for a credit as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Menser, questions?
At the Grand Mountain Rochester Chamber meeting, they were asking about what the timeline for completion of this was, and I told them I would ask and get back to them. So I don't know if Teresa, do you have a sense of how long this is going to take to do?
Well, at this point, it's still planned to be substantially complete by the end of the year. I mean, there may be some cleanup next year, but that's the schedule right now. We're working through some final issues with DOT to be able to set the date and time for bid, and it's still right on schedule to be done this year. I hesitate a little bit just because there's so many things that are going on in the world today that could affect that, to like commit in front of the commission that, yeah, by golly, it'll be done. But at this point, that we don't see why it won't be substantially complete by the end of the year.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. I don't have any questions. Moving on to the next item, resolution to alter the configuration of 197th Avenue Southwest.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. This item is related to the previous item that you just considered. And by resolution, you need to enact to reconfigure 197th Avenue, southwest of the Grand Mountain area. That is on the north side of the US 12 and Sargent Road. And this is just complementary to the project that you may be considering this afternoon, authorizing proposal for seal bids. Any questions?
Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
My only question on this one would be, through this action, we won't be jeopardizing anybody's property or ability or locking them in or, I don't know, landlocking them, or they won't have access, that type of thing, are we?
If I may, to the contrary, I think it will open up, the roundabout will open up the north side of this road, which right now doesn't have access to Highway 12.
Okay, thank you.
And all of the abutting properties, we've laid out their driveway access and worked with the property owners. So for sure, their access has been part of the design.
Okay, thank you, Teresa.
Questions, Commissioner Menzer?
No, thank you.
Okay, and I don't either. Thank you, Teresa.
Thank you.
Okay, now on to item E, contract award for culvert supply for fish passage enhancement 2022.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. The board authorized earlier this year to issue a call for bids to secure the services of materials for 2 concrete culverts related to the fish passage enhancement program located on the 2 locations in the county. The department opened the bids on February 10, 2022, and they received 2 responsive bidders. The result of that process, the department is for you to consider approving this contract for $236,412, which includes an aggregate of 10% of the lowest bid to Columbia Precast Products of Woodland, Washington. I keep emphasizing every time an item like this comes for your attention, how strategic public work has been in making sure the materials are ordered ahead of time, in this case, the box culvert. When the time for construction comes, which is a very defined fish window in the summer, they could just go ahead and finish the project within the constraints of the fish window. Catherine is here to answer any questions.
Commissioner Edwards, questions?
No questions, thank you.
Commissioner Menzer?
No.
And I don't either. Thank you. Thank you, Catherine. Okay. And then we'll review our setting items. Commissioners will report on board work sessions and assigned committee meetings. Item B, the county manager will review the Board of County Commissioners scheduled for the week of March 8th, 2022, and then we will adjourn. At 3 p.m. or shortly thereafter, hopefully, we will pick up with a public hearing, and the public hearings operations of the Black Lake Special District.
Yes, thank you. And I will have a script ready for you, Madam Chair, for the commissioners this afternoon.
Is there going to be, I guess this question is for Ramiro, is there going to be a presentation of some sort prior to the public hearing? And if so, who's going to provide what information?
Thank you, Commissioner. What we will do, I will tag team. I will introduce the item related to the petition itself. Amy will follow up on the posting requirements that we needed to do and provide a high-level response overview of the comments that we have received so far. Although the deadline for providing public comments was yesterday at noon, but we'll continue to receive comments and Amy will highlight that. And lastly, Elizabeth Petridge will address the board and give you a perspective in terms of the purpose of intent of this public hearing and perhaps what the options the board will consider during the public testimony. So it's going to be a threefold presentation this afternoon. Did I answer your question, sir?
So, thank you.
Commissioner Edwards, questions?
No, I think we've got this one relatively covered. It's going to take, have we got an estimate of the number of people coming forward?
I think so far, we have received close to 60 comments, thereabouts. So if some may come in person, we'll follow up on, some may need just in person, not in person.
Yeah,
Virtual.
yeah, that was gonna be my question. Are we doing
No in
something?
person, it's gonna be all virtual.
Okay.
A public hearing. We will have Brandy sitting outside of the boardroom, just in case somebody comes in person. We'll greet them and we'll ask them to provide either a written testimony or they can join us via a conference call. But we'll have Brandy out there greeting any potential in person, just in case somebody missed that.
Okay, that covers all my concerns. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. That was going to be my question about, how many people have registered for this public hearing. So, commissioners, stay hydrated because
we're going to need your big
So, yeah, Madam Chair,
water tub.
The commissioners may consider, depending on the number of public testimony, you may consider reducing the time for public comments from 4 to 3 minutes, or just maintain it 4 minutes. That's always an option for you during a public hearing.
Commissioners, what do you think?
In the past, I think we used, I can't remember which hearing it was, but we kind of used the 25-person threshold. If there was more than 25 people, then we went to 3 minutes. I think we did that at least once, and it felt like the right decision. So I would support that, but obviously it's your call. But yeah, I think that would make some sense. We have a lot of written comment too, which is helpful to,
And we'll have a packet of all the written comments for you, and in fact, it's already in your inbox.
And I'm there with Commissioner Mentor on that issue. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so if there's more than 25 people here for public comment, and how can we tell with that, Ramiro? I mean,
I'll make just a count on the Zoom, and I'll give you a quick perspective on that, quick count.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Oh, Amy just reported that we have 45 registered to provide testimony this afternoon. Whether they provide, but at least they're going to be attending via Zoom. So
3 minutes would be.
So then I think the conversation with 3 minutes is appropriate.
Okay, so we'll be limiting public comment to 3 minutes today. Okay, any more questions on this public hearing today? Okay, with that, we'll move on. That will conclude our agenda for today. Next, we will review the Board of Health draft agenda, which the meeting of March 8th, 2022 is canceled because of the public hearing. I know it's rescheduled, and I see the chair for the Board of Health, Commissioner Menz, go ahead.
I just want to clarify, the meeting is not canceled. It's been rescheduled to the 22nd, and that's misleading to the public. We do one monthly meeting, and for various reasons, we're rescheduling or postponing, however you want to put it, to the 22nd. And I assume we'll be reviewing the agenda next Tuesday morning on that. Is that correct, County Manager?
That is correct, sir. Yeah.
Okay.
Good point.
Yep. Okay. So then we're good to go to item 5.
Thank you, sir, for that clarification. Okay. And then we will review the BoCC draft agenda for the meeting of March 15th, 2022. It is 10:24. Do commissioners want to take a break, or would you like to review the agenda for the 15th?
If I may, this is a short agenda.
Okay.
Maybe go through this, if I may, Madam Chair.
We'll go ahead and review this, and then after that, we'll take a short break. Okay, so for the meeting of March 15th, 2022, we'll call the meeting to order at 2 p.m. at Pledge of Allegiance to be led by Commissioner Edwards, approval of the Tuesday, March 15, 2022 agenda, and approval of the board meeting minutes for March 8th, 2022. At 2:05, there will be a presentation, the state of the library.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. The Executive Director of the Timberline Regional Library will be presenting you with the state of the library system. Ms. Cheryl Haywood will be present. I need to confirm, since next week the boardroom will be open to the public. I don't know if she will be joining us in person or not, but we'll confirm that by next Tuesday when you review this item again. We'll follow up on what is going to be virtual or in person. But as just for the members of the public, the board decided to open room 280 next week, and that is in alignment to lifting the mask mandates issued by the governor. And but we'll continue to have a hybrid approach, meaning we will continue to have a Zoom option for the members of the public to join us, and any member of the public who would like to come in person and join the conversation in the boardroom will be open.
Okay, thank you. Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
No questions, thank you.
Commissioner Menser?
No.
Okay, moving on, there'll be an opportunity for the public to address the board. There'll be a county manager's update. County manager?
Yeah, and I will follow up any comments that need a follow-up as a result of this afternoon's public testimony.
And consent items, there's only one item, which is the approval of the voucher list for the week of February 28th, 2022. Questions, comments on that? Okay. On to department items. There is item 4 is community planning and economic development, and it's to set a public hearing on development code docket item A7, low impact development code amendment.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for your considerations to set a public hearing for you to receive public testimony related to item I-7 of the Development Code docket, also known as the Low Impact Development, which is the considering amending Title 20, in which will address existing limitations related to the Low Impact Development Code that was adopted in 2016. You held a few sessions, and in fact, the board was briefed on February 3rd. Follow up with the staff on March 1st with additional conversations and perspective the board requested. Also, the Planning Commission reviewed this item, and 2 work sessions back in October 6th and November 3rd, 2021. The Planning Commission also held a public hearing on December 3rd. And following the public hearing, the Planning Commission voted unanimously to recommend the approval of the Development Code docket. Andrew is here to answer any additional questions related to this item to set the public hearing for April 19, 2022 at 3 in the afternoon.
Hi, Andrew. Go ahead.
Good morning, Commissioners. Andrew Vaughn here with CPED. I have no additional information to provide.
Perfect. Okay, questions, Commissioner Edwards.
Andrew, when this was presented, there was a percentage issue, I think, that was changed in 2016. And I think it was changed from 70% to 10%. And when you've made these adjustments that you feel are going to address this, was that an issue at all as far as maybe changing it, say to 20% or something like that? Or did that come up at all with the process or the Planning Commission?
No conversations were had. The scope of the project was rather limited, and the focus of the amendments were to provide additional flexibility to the public and improve just the overall process for planning staff.
Okay, thank you.
Questions, Commissioner Menser?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on to item 5A, Emergency Services, Amendment 1 to the Washington State Department of Health 2022-2024 Consolidated Contract.
Madam Chair, there will be a revision. This is no emergency services item, is public health and social services item, so that will be corrected for next week. But Kirk Hardin, the interim public health and social services director, will be presenting this item. So this is related to a contract that you approved early in the year with the Washington State Department of Health with a consolidated contract. So you may recall when we presented the item for you to authorize the contract with the State Department of Health, not only that we were approved, that you were approving what I call the umbrella of the contract itself. And at that point, we let you know, give a heads up that an amendment is coming with additional details in terms of the dollars and cents and the purpose and intent of the funding. So here we are. For your consideration is amendment number 1 to this contract the board approved early in the year. And this is for receive from the state $4,288,401. And the performance of this contract is from January 1st, 2022 through December 31st, 2024. There is a lot of programs associated with this. I will let Kurt to elaborate on what programs and what activities will be covered under the $4.3 million. Kurt?
Yes, thank you. Good morning, Commissioners. Kurt Harden again, Interim Director of Public Health. So the list of areas that are going to be funded in the amendment are COVID-19 mass vaccination services, foundational public health services, infectious disease prevention areas, maternal and child health block grant, Office of Drinking Water, 2 programs in the Office of Drinking Water, and then the Office of Immunization for COVID-19 vaccine, and then also recreational shellfish activities and some other areas as well.
Thank you. Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
I know we're getting a lot of money in on COVID, for COVID issues. What was roughly, where maybe you don't know this, maybe Robin knows it. So I'm taking we're getting more money in because quite a bit of you just listed there had to do with COVID. What did we get in last year or the year before? Is this kind of consistent, or is this bumped up in revenue kind of inconsistent with the whole virus thing we've been involved in for a couple of years? I'm just curious if it reflects increases like Commerce has sent us other money for problems.
I don't have that information readily available, but I can find out, unless Robin, you might have it. I'm not sure.
Just generally, Robin.
On my desk, Commissioner, about a month ago, we did a review of all COVID funding. And the answer is in that document. I would need to find it just off the top of my head. I don't know, but we've had a significant amount of expenses in responding to COVID, and we are fortunate that the Department of Health is stepping up and assisting the county with these costs.
Okay, thank you.
It could be additional funding after the legislative session is complete. Is that correct, Kurt?
Yeah, there is additional funding for COVID in here. I just have to go back and see how it compares to last year.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Questions, Commissioner Menser?
No questions.
Okay. And I don't either. So with that, we'll go on to, thank you, Kurt. We'll move on to our standing items, which commissioners will report on board work sessions and assigned committee meetings. And then the county manager will review the Board of County Commissioners schedule for the week of March 15th, 2022. At 3:30 or shortly thereafter, we'll start the Transportation Benefit District meeting. So with that, 10:34, I see there's 4 items on this. Let's go ahead and tackle this, and then we can come back to our sending items. So with the Transportation Benefit District meeting for March 15, 2022, call the meeting to order at 3:30 p.m. Approval of the March 15th, 2022 agenda. Approval of the meeting minutes from March 16th, 2021. And then there will be an opportunity for the public to address the board, 3 minutes per citizen. That needs to be corrected. Does it not?
That is correct. It should be 4 minutes.
Okay. And then there will be, moving on to department items. And this is to ratify the elections of Thurston County Transportation Benefit District officers for 2022.
Good morning, Commissioners. Scott Lindblom, County Engineer with Public Works. This first item on the agenda for the TBD, as you mentioned, is the ratification of the election of officers. I have nothing more to add on that.
Thank you, Scott. And I wasn't sure if I was passing it to you or to the county manager, so.
I wasn't sure either, so I apologize.
Sorry. So I was creating the confusion. Sorry.
Okay, moving on to item B, the 2021 Thurston County Transportation Benefit District Annual Report.
Scott, go for it.
Okay, thank you. Good morning again. This item is the annual presentation of the annual report, which is a required reporting out to the TBD board. And it's identified in the charter. And what it will include is a summary of the status of transportation improvements, costs, expenditures of the TBD, revenues, and construction schedules. As you're aware, the TBD is not funded, so the report is rather brief. So the TBD received no revenues, minimal expenditures to coordinate the one meeting we held in 2021. And that is about the end of that report.
Thank you. Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
I think we're going to cover all the money issues at that point, time and point. Is that right, Scott? Everything to do with revenue and potential.
Yeah, that is part of the report. And in 2021, the TBD did incur $901 in liabilities from the activities, really, and that was in preparation for the meeting just about 12 months ago.
Yeah, okay. And this is just an annual requirement if you have a transportation benefit district, right?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Menzer?
No, I have nothing.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to item C, it's a presentation, State of Transportation System. Scott?
Yes, so this item is really looking at a high-level look at the state of the county's transportation system. I will briefly go over some of the accomplishments we did and really start to look at the condition of where we have our roads primarily, and kind of a look ahead as to what it might take to get where we really want to be as far as maintaining and having a robust transportation system in the county. And that will be a PowerPoint presentation.
Thank you. Questions, Commissioner Menzer?
No.
Commissioner Edwards?
No, thanks.
Moving on to item D, it's another presentation for federal infrastructure bill funding. Scott?
Yeah, so this last presentation is going to provide kind of a high-level overview for the TBD board of discussion of the federal infrastructure funding that is starting to rattle around the federal government and state, and starting to come down through the state government. We'll touch on where we expect to perhaps receive some money, kind of the approach we're seeing, and really look at where we're going to be targeting, or how we'll be reviewing and prioritizing where we're going to spend the money, should that money materialize.
Thank you. Questions, Commissioner Menzer?
No.
Commissioner Edwards?
No questions, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And then we'll adjourn our meeting. So with that, our next item is proclamation and awards. It's 10:39. We'll go ahead and take it's usually a 5-minute break. It's a 5-minute break, right?
10.
10? Okay.
15 if we have time, but today, no, we don't have time.
So we'll do 10 minutes and we will be back at 10:50 a.m. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and we are back to the agenda setting work session. It is 10:54 a.m. and we are picking up from where we left off, which is proclamations and awards.
Good morning, Amy Davis, Clerk of the Board. There are no proclamations for review. However, I've received 2 requests for your consideration. They are for Child Abuse Prevention Month for April, requested by Family Education and Support Services, and Women's History Month in March, requested by a couple of county employees. If you'd like, I can route a proclamation for Women's History Month this week, and we can include it on next week's agenda. And we can also include the Child Abuse Prevention Proclamation for March 29th in advance of April. Would you like to move forward with both of these?
Commissioner Edwards?
Have we had those in the past, those ones you just read off?
Yeah.
So it's a regular.
Yeah, I think it's been a few years, which may have been.
Commissioner Munster?
I'm okay with the History Month, and we can take a look at the one for the child abuse prevention as well. I have a question. Looking at the upcoming schedule, May had so many that we backed a couple into April, and I'm wondering about May 10th, Public Service Recognition Week. First of all, that would be after the fact if the actual week is May 1st through 7th. And second of all, I guess, just looking at all the ones we've got there, is that been requested by someone? Or is that a necessary one that we need to do? Or could that be one that we could not do this year? What kind of public service are we recognizing exactly there?
I think we had discussed earlier in the year kind of combining or holding public service recognition prior to Public Works, followed by Emergency Medical Services Week to recognize all public servants. I can take a look back to and share next week as well.
Well, if we were folding Public Works and Emergency Services into it, then I would understand. But I don't think we decided to do that. In fact, I remember the county manager asking us not to do that. So I would then question, do we need the separate Public Service Recognition Week? But anyway, I guess I'm good with everything else I see.
That is a good question. For the Public Works Week and Emergency Services Week, those are national events.
Okay.
And traditionally, we have aligned those to national events. Like, good question in terms of the Public Service Recognition Week. There's always been a good opportunity for the board to recognize county employees. But yeah, there is time for the board to consider that.
Could we do it later in the summer and hopefully partner with HR and coming up with something to recognize employees? Like if it's not because it's, an official national thing, couldn't we do it later in the year?
Yeah, we can work with HR to see what alternatives we can bring back to the board.
So we've often held it in October. There is an official week in May that is national, but the county has often delayed that due to the amount of work for HR.
Okay, that's good to know. With the Child Abuse Prevention Month, I mean, haven't we done a proclamation in the past? Because I remember last year we did the pinwheels. And so I'm just wondering.
I think that was in the Board of Health.
Yes.
Yeah, there we go. Commissioner Edwards.
Yeah, I think that was the Board of Health, not the Board of County Commissioners. And that may be an option, how you'd like to maybe address that under the Board of Health meeting in April. That would be Chair, sir?
Amy, do we have any proclamation? Does this list out Board of Health as well, or is this just county commissioners?
Just BoCC. There are a few for Board of Health to consider in April. Those include Sexual Assault Awareness Month, Prescription Drug Take Back Day and Infant Immunization Month.
That will be 3 in a single meeting.
Yeah, I'm not doing 4 proclamations in a meeting. I'm not even going to do 3, to be honest with you. 2 is my absolute limit. So we'll have to just be selective and maybe alternate years or whatever. But it sounds like there is not room in the April Board of Health agenda.
And for child abuse, when it is that again, Amy? Is it for the month of March or is it for the month of April?
The month of April. And it is one that has been done in the past. The message from Roger Jones at the Family Education and Support Services states April is National Child Abuse Prevention Month, and it serves as a reminder that everyone has a role in helping to protect our most cherished resource, our children. There's no better time to help raise awareness and support prevention efforts. And they've provided a draft proclamation, and we also have some to work off of that we've used in the past. And they've asked us to help partner with them to help keep our communities and children safe.
Maybe considering the logistics of the Board of Health, you may consider having two proclamations on April 5th, the Billy Frank Month, and as well as the Child Abuse Month.
Or on March 29th, so there's one on, one for each. Yeah.
Yeah, we could do March 29th if that's okay for the Child Abuse Prevention Month, and then the Women's History Month for next week.
Okay.
Does that work for commissioners? Commissioner Edwards?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good with whatever Amy comes up with.
Commissioner Menser, are you okay with that since you'll have to read them?
I'm good. Yeah.
Okay, so just to kind of recap, Women's History Month is going to be read next week, so March 15th. And it's going to be a short notice invitation, I guess, to some community organizations. And then Child Abuse Prevention Month will be held March 29th. Okay, thank you. Next, advisory boards and commissions.
Yes, there are 3 applications for the Agriculture Advisory Committee from Celeste Winther, Chris Dolman, and Greg Shorno. Prior to receiving Ms. Winther's application, we had asked the Ag Committee to provide a recommendation, and they did so for Mr. Shorno. We have received a request from the chair of the Ag Committee to also receive and consider Ms. Winther's application in their recommendation. And so I'm happy to take any direction on that. There are 2 farmer and 2 non-farmer vacancies.
Commissioner Edwards?
Let's see. Say that was to me, was it? I couldn't hear that well.
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay, let me clarify something here. We've got 3 appointments for the Ag Committee. Is that what we've got? Or
3 applications.
Pardon?
There are 3 applications for farmer positions, and currently there are 2 farmer and 2 non-farmer seats vacant.
Okay, so we've got a new person. What's the deal on the new person? They're gonna be going to committee meetings. I think some of these committees, we ask them for a recommendation and some we don't. Is that what I was hearing about this new person from the chair of the Ag Committee wanting to invite somebody to go, and the person I think they wanted to invite was this Celeste Winther person?
I can probably address that, if I may.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, you're right. In some instances, some committees are, and the establishment of those committees are very prescriptive. They will be the ones who receive the applications and provide recommendations to the board. And those are the SWAB, the Solid Waste, Surface Water Advisory Committee, as well as the Solid Waste Advisory Committee is very prescriptive. In some of the others, they don't have that, and it's to the purview of the Board of County Commissioners that whether you like to send those applications to those committees for you to get their perspective and their feedback. And that is perhaps the confusion that has occurred because you have taken an action in the past to send applications that you receive for the Agricultural Advisory Committee and send them back for the committee to provide a recommendation. And that is the request for the third application that we received for Ms. Celeste Winter, is whether the board likes to send that application for the Agricultural Advisory Committee to review that and provide a perspective from their point of view. So it is not a one-fits-all, size-fits-all.
I guess from my perspective, why would we not want any of the committees, I guess, but this one for sure. Why would we not want to have this person attend the meeting? I think that's what they were asking. I think it's always beneficial to have someone attend.
I'm not suggesting they shouldn't.
No,
I'm suggesting
okay.
the board needs to make that decision.
Oh, okay, well, I'm in favor of sending any name forward and see what they think. See if there's a fit there or not.
But also, if I may suggest, I think the board needs to have a larger conversation related to the advisory committee based on the letters that you received or resignation from the 3 members. So I just wanted to, with that, I believe that each one of you received letters of those resignations. And as you move forward, and this is just my recommendation here to globalize the conversation on the appointments you made to the advisory, Agricultural Advisory Committee. So the question before you is, Commissioner Edwards stated, you'd like to send the application of Ms. Celeste Winter to the Agriculture Advisory Committee for their review and as a result, provide recommendations for appointment to the board.
Okay, and Commissioner Edwards said yes. Commissioner Menser?
My position has been clear and has not changed. I'm not doing anything with this committee. I will not vote on any applications until we have a conversation about what's going on in this committee. The last 3 people that I voted to assign to this committee resigned with concerns expressed. I don't know if they're right or wrong. I'm not digging into that, but something's amiss, and until we have a conversation about that, I'm not going to be taking action on any. Plus, we had the whole issue about we weren't going to appoint anyone until our handbook got approved, and not that that's going to solve everything, but that hasn't been done either. So for both of those reasons, I'm not interested in taking any action.
I'm on the same, and I'll come back to you, Commissioner Edwards. I'm on the same boat, Commissioner Menser. Especially because one of the members was one member that I recruited for this position because she was the one who delivered my Southwest food box, and I was, and she demonstrated interest in getting involved, and I recommended this committee, and just to see some of the concerns outlined there, I was alarmed, and so I'm, especially with the handbook also not being completed yet, I at this point, I just, and it's until we address those matters, I don't see a point in them making recommendations, right? Because we're not going to be appointing anyone for the time being, it looks like, until at least one of those 2 things happen. So, Commissioner Edwards, back to you.
I guess whether or not we make those moves for appointments, I still think it would be beneficial to have applicants at least attend meetings. And I think that's what was being requested. We don't have to ask them to give us a recommendation, but why don't we let them get a hold of the person that has an interest to attend the meetings? I don't think they know, I don't know who this new person is, but why wouldn't we want them to attend? There's two other people on here that have applications in, and I guess we do know both of them. And we're just not asking for recommendations yet, it doesn't look like, but.
I tend to differ from that perspective, Commissioner, because I believe the current chair of the Agriculture Advisory Committee was asking a specific application for them to conduct an interview at a meeting.
I thought they just wanted to invite them.
Because this is, anybody can attend the Agriculture Advisory Committee. I don't think nobody's preventing them to attend. But I think the specific request was to get a copy of the application so they can invite her to conduct an interview. And that's really the request of the board, whether you like to exercise that.
What would it hurt to have them interview her then, because we're gonna make a decision on who we're gonna appoint at some point. So I guess what does it hurt to wait? I mean, what does it hurt to have her go through the interview, I guess? And then we're gonna wait and make an appointment after we've had all these issues discussed, it sounds like.
Go ahead, Commissioner Menzer.
I don't understand the issue. I don't tell the Agriculture Advisory Committee how to conduct their business. If they want to interview, they can interview 100 people. I don't care. It's up to them. If they want to put that on their agenda and use their time, send us a recommendation, we'll act on it. As you say, Commissioner Edwards, we'll act on it when feel it's appropriate. So I don't have any well, I'm not sure what the problem is. If they want to interview somebody, they can certainly do that.
Yeah, okay.
So there's a concurrence. We submit the application to the advisory committee for them to interview her. That's what I'm hearing.
Oh, they want to see her application.
Yeah.
That's the hang up.
Yeah. So they want to see the application and go through the formal interview to provide a formal recommendation to the board. That's the request.
I would think, given our previous practice, anytime we get an applicant for that committee, it could go on to the committee for them to look at. And I mean, I don't see any need to hold that close to our chest. So I don't have a problem with that.
And I'm with you, sir, on that. Then we're gonna make a determination later, at some later point, once, I don't know, handbook's done, some other things are done. We've had discussions about issues or whatever.
I appreciate that direction, at least from two members of the board. I don't know how they will feel.
I'm okay with that, yeah.
So then Amy will send the application to the chair as a result of this conversation.
Okay. And more to come as far as guidebook and such, I think.
Okay, and Amy, I'll hand it back to you.
Thank you. Okay.
Chair, I do have one question.
Oh, go ahead, sir.
As we move ahead with these discussions, could we see who sits on, I mean, we must have a list of who is sitting on what committees that we've appointed, right? Could we get that as part of our advisory boards and commissions information that we get? I mean, we get that there's an opening about this or that, and different, not farmer, non-farmer, or like historic commission, maybe at large or whatever. I'd like to see who those individuals are that are sitting on those. For, I guess, if no other reason, I'd like to thank them for putting up with it and participating if I run into them somewhere. Because
we have provided that information in the past. We certainly can provide it.
Yeah, I mean, just let's keep it on here because it changes once in a while, and we might not be up on the changes or whatever. I just like to know who's on there, so I run into them in the hall and say, hey, thank you for serving on the noxious weed board. Because to be honest with you, I can't tell you who's on there right now. I mean, I know I can go look it up, but if I had it fresh, and we're gonna start interacting with people here, it sounds like, pretty quick. We're no longer gonna be isolated, so.
There'll be a hefty packet though, Commissioner, because there's a lot of boards.
A lot of them, yeah. We can probably, maybe what we can suggest is maybe give you a working book.
Okay.
and just keep it
That's fine.
available.
Yeah,
to
anything
you.
like that, that would be
Because
good.
including, you know, a very thick piece of information
Okay.
every Tuesday may be a lot.
If I could get that maybe sent to my staff person or something, my assistant would,
We'll work on that.
and then I could look at it periodically myself. Okay, thank you.
Okay, and Amy, I see there's a Timberland Regional Library Board of Trustees, but in looking at the application, it says Area Agency on Aging Advisory Board.
I'm sorry, yes, that's a typo. It is for the Area Agency on Aging. And this application is from Anna Schlecht. She would be a new appointment. And the LMTAAA has requested that the board move forward with this appointment.
I guess I will on that, if I could.
Go ahead, Commissioner Edwards.
As I sit on that group. They, this individual has been participating and has an interest and has a long time community interest in doing things in our community that are beneficial. And so this group has asked that she be appointed to this board. And I think she'd be a good appointment. So I guess that's my campaign speech for her, I guess. For Anna.
Commissioner Munster.
There's no like listing on this for, is there a vacancy?
Yes, there was a vacancy. I don't know if there, has she been appointed yet? I thought we did that.
No, Anna has not been appointed yet.
Hasn't been. Yeah, there is a vacancy, sir.
Okay, well, I'm good. I know Ms. Schlecht, and she's a super volunteer type person who I'm sure could bring a lot to this committee.
Yes.
Yeah, and so looks like you have 3 thumbs up on that, Amy.
Okay, thank you. And if there's no more on that, this is just informational. I wanted to share with you that the Treatment Sales Tax Advisory Committee has begun a recruitment process that will end in early April. There are 4 terms expiring in the next couple of months and 1 current vacancy. So Carrie and I will be back in April with all of the applications, including those for reappointment if they'd like to do so for your consideration. So just a heads up in the event you see or hear anything on the recruitment process. And that's all I have.
Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
No questions, thank you.
Commissioner Munster?
No.
Okay. Amy, is that all?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. With that, we'll move on to our PIO check-in.
Good morning, Commissioners. Megan Porter, Public Information Supervisor. No urgent updates for you this morning for the sake of time.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to our legislative update. County Manager.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. As the legislative session winds down, I think this is the last week. The legislature is going to be concentrating and reconciling the budget and maybe some bills that will be necessary to implement the budget. So a few bills that have passed. I give you the report of the latest and greatest. I only like to highlight a couple. On page 1, the engrossed Substantive House Bill 1329 on the first item. This is related to public meetings, accessibility, and participation. This is a good bill. It has passed both chambers. It's headed to the governor for signature, which allow public agencies to provide remote access to governing body meetings and record the post recordings online. It's something that we already do and give us a little more flexibility to do that. Also requires to be more flexible in providing remote oral comments and individuals. We already practicing this in terms of the emergency. So it provides a little more flexibility. It puts in a statute also. So overall, the WASAC and the Association of Cities are supportive of this bill. So we'll see if the governor signs it. The other bill related to this is on page 3. Is the Senate Bill 5514. And this allows a county legislative authority to hold the regular meetings once per calendar year, once per month in a calendar year, in a city within the county who has the greatest population other than the county seat. How that pertains to Thurston County, it will allow the flexibility for the board to have actually board meetings within the city of Lacey, because Lacey's population will most likely surpass the city of Olympia here in the next round of population. So this will give the board additional flexibility to actually hold board meetings once per month within the city of Lacey boundaries. At this point, you are restricted to hold it only on the county seat, which is the city of Olympia. That's all the updates related to the legislative report. Any questions?
Commissioner Edwards?
No questions, thank you.
Commissioner Menzer?
No.
Okay, thank you, County Manager. With that, we'll move on to a briefing on the 2022-2023 midterm budget adjustment.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Robin will walk you through the details, but at this point, is a result of the briefing that you received last Thursday, March 3rd, related to the 2022-2023 budget amendments adjustments. This morning, we will ask you to approve a couple of items. One is the schedule that we provided to you, and the second is the midterm adjustment, what includes, what are the parameters in which each office and department will exercise that. Robin, would you like to elaborate a little bit more on that?
Just to reiterate from the briefing last week, that the midterm adjustments would include not only the usual things like unanticipated receipts, adjustments to the rates, an adjustment to personnel costs. These are all typical things, but we're adding something new, and that is the ability for officers and departments to request any one-time money that was not spent or non-personnel money that was not spent. They could ask that the board carry that over into the second year. So that's something new. And then the things that would not be included in a budget adjustment, typical things, no new policies, no expanded programs that aren't triggered by external forces, if you will. No requests to reconsider things that were denied in the original budget. You would not spend time in presentations by every office and departments, and you would review only those significant funds that would have changes. So those are kind of the highlights.
Thank you. Okay, County Manager?
Yes, I would like the board to exercise your decision-making process to approve both the parameters that Robin just highlighted, as well as the calendar it was presented to you, which also included in your packet. So, do I hear a concurrence and approval? I see 2 thumbs up from Commissioner Menzer.
Parameters, calendar.
Okay. Commissioner.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead, sir.
Are we going to have, as time goes ahead on this, are we going to have the ability to meet some of these commitments remotely? Is that, that's in the cards? I mean, we can, there's nothing that says we can't or we can't, but I mean, we can do that, right?
I'm sorry, can you?
Or if we have a public hearing, we're gonna do it, so we're in person and remotely. I'm just.
Yeah,
that's gonna continue.
A hybrid?
Yeah, hybrid.
Yes, that is the intent, to continue to practice a hybrid.
Because we're doing some of that on some of our other committees and assignments.
Yes, and that item is gonna be on your next agenda, the live stream board meetings.
Yep. That was my only question. Thank you. Thumbs up.
Okay.
So unanimous thumbs up on both items, correct? Thank you.
Yes, sir. Okay. That was short and sweet. Thank you. Okay, now to commissioner items. The first item is a PUD letter.
Yeah, you received, Commissioner, you received a letter back in February 17, 2022 from the Thurston Public Utility District that is related to the country club fish barrier passage that we need to replace. And I said need because we provided an emergency repair, as you may recall, last year. And we need to have the permanent improvements that needs to be implemented by 2024. So within that context, the department is finalizing the study and it will come back with the specifics of that study for you to consider the options. The options ranges from eliminating the roadway to build a bridge, to build just a pedestrian bridge. But really, the options are broad. The Public Works is currently in the process of doing so. So this letter today has two elements. And let me highlight the last element, and then I'll come back to the first element. The element, and it's highlighted in here, the PUD says, we are supportive of restoring a safe salmon passage and would like to voice our endorsement of the three options to allow for a road, pedestrian bridge, or vehicular bridge. They will not endorse an option that removes the road and bridge as an overall. So that's the key element of the request. And at this point, I'm not asking to take any actions on that. I'm not asking to take any actions on any of this letter at this point. The second element they highlight is the PUD, as any other utility provider, uses the county's right-of-way under a franchise agreement. And the franchise agreement, as you may recall, gives the terms and conditions as to how any particular utility can manage, at no cost, use the county's right-of-way to provide services to the citizens or to the ratepayers. They're making an argument that perhaps the improvements associated with this will cost a significant amount of money to the ratepayers, and they state those ratepayers are your constituents, which is they are correct. But every single utility ratepayer in the county are your constituents, regardless. So it's not just narrowed down to just this particular area. So this is something that really the board needs to be addressing, because for me is not necessarily arguing the intent and the purpose of this request. For me, I would like the board to consider, at a high level, because every single utility provider that uses the county's right-of-way may have the same issue when the county requires for them to move a utility in order for us to provide our road improvements. And then they will be requesting for us to pay for their relocation improvements. That's the gist of this letter. So I just want to highlight those two elements for you. I'm not expecting you to make any decision at this point, but at some point you may want to consider the second item, that request, whether the county can financially support the relocation of a utility as a result of a county road, which that may be contrary to the franchise utility that you approve, not just for PUD, but any other utilities, which includes all the providers in the county. So, questions on that?
Yes.
Go ahead, sir.
I don't have questions so much on what you went over, but in that first paragraph on this, it says households on country club, 679. What does that mean? What in parentheses there? I see this impact 65 families, but what's the 679? In parentheses, do you know what that means?
I think there's the overall water system they have. So, but what I think they're making a difference, the 65 families will be affected, serve the country club itself.
Yeah.
But there is 679, I believe, water utility payers. I'm trying to interpret that.
Yeah, okay. I'd like to know more about that. But anyway, I do have a question about the date here. We got this letter apparently on the 17th February, and maybe I missed it. Did it go in our inbox and?
Yeah.
And somehow I didn't see it. I guess, okay, mine went to China for review or something. I didn't put it back in, I guess, because I missed it.
We distribute every single letter we receive.
Yeah, okay, so that's on me that I missed it. But I would hope that we at least got back to these folks and said, hey, we're in receipt of your letter and we're gonna be talking about it, or something. And the only reason I asked that is because I run into other commissioners. Did you? Good, thank you very much. I did not run into anybody. I didn't get asked about this.
Yeah, I did respond to the.
But I was wondering about, I guess a minor delay of 3 weeks is not a big deal in the scheme of things, the way government does business, so. Anyway, so
I did acknowledge.
I'm sure I dropped the ball somewhere.
I did acknowledge receiving the letter to the commissioners as well as the executive director.
Okay, so it sounds like more to come, thank you.
Commissioner Menzer?
So as to the element of the, like looking at the last paragraph of the letter on the first page, what I understood this to be arguing is that not that we're supposed to pay this, but that they're going to have to pay $200,000 to $300,000 period. But if we were to choose this roadless option or whatever, then that would balloon up to 2 million. So they're trying to show us that if we made a choice like that, we'd be putting this unreasonable burden on their ratepayers. So I took that paragraph as trying to influence the choice that we'll make down the road about which option, rather than saying, write us a check for that amount of money. Although up above, they do say, any help you can provide to our mutual constituents to cover relocation costs would be appreciated, but that's kind of vague.
Yeah, and that's what that was how I took it, because the opening statements was exactly asking for financial help.
I don't know, Scott, did you interpret this any differently than what I just kind of summarized? Or is there any element of this that might not be apparent to our commissioner eyes that you read, that you understand when you read this letter?
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. And I was looking for my raise my hand icon, but I couldn't quite get it. But
I raised it for you.
Just getting back to Commissioner Edwards for just a moment. Public Works staff has been in close contact with the PUD throughout this whole effort. And we had staff attend a PUD meeting a few weeks ago in which the PUD management went through essentially the elements of this letter with their customers. So we had staff there to help respond to some of the questions that came up. So we have been in really close contact with the PUD, and we will certainly continue to have that contact. When you look at the letter, I read that smaller paragraph, third from the bottom, or I guess third from the top and third from the bottom. Certainly by reading that, it does look like they're looking for some assistance, somewhat vague though. But I think the real driver of this letter is to make sure that the county is aware that this will be an impact on the ratepayers, either a modest impact or perhaps a significant impact. And I think it's also important to note that at this point, we are still looking at 4 different options on how to address this. And we have no preconceived notions at this point. The study is underway. And once the study is done, we will be reaching out to the PUD as a key stakeholder, but also to the tribes and the community and such. So it will be, the input from all those different stakeholders will really help formulate, the best path forward for us. And cost is a consideration for sure. Environmental benefit, emergency access, and utilities, not just the water as well, but electric as well. So did that answer your question, Commissioner?
I think so. I just wanted to hear whether that, you ferreted out and a wrinkle to this that I didn't. And it's good to know you guys are in close working contact on that.
Chair?
You have a follow-up question, Commissioner Edwards?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Do we have any legal responsibility if we're going to make some changes to pay for those changes? I guess, have we got legal advised or involved or something here? I mean, if this was gonna be $2 million, and both power and water were gonna hit us or something, that's a big hit. And, you know, we'd probably take that into consideration or something. I just don't know the answer to that. Are we legally responsible for going in, hey, we're gonna change this because of X, whatever that is? And if we do that, unfortunately, it's gonna cost you $2 million and you guys have to pony up. Well, is that the way it is, or is that just cut and dried, or are we in the middle of litigation after that, or and it isn't done for 5 years, or, you know? So what's the gig there? Where are we at?
I had the same question.
Yeah, the PUD is operating under a franchise with the county. So as the county manager mentioned a few minutes ago, they would be responsible for those costs. And I think in this letter, what they're trying to do is highlight the impact on there, and perhaps in a somewhat, well, in a very general sentence in the letter, looking for consideration of support for that. But ultimately, it would be their responsibility to do that, much the same as we have with other utilities throughout the county.
And that's agreed on by legal? I mean, you know, when we make a decision, I'm hoping we get, not that I don't trust your view on it, Scott, but it doesn't hold the same weight as an officer of the court somehow.
Well,
Yeah, certainly as we go through this, you know, the legal implications will be reviewed by our legal staff as well, so.
But the franchise agreement is reviewed by legal.
Yeah.
And the franchise agreement is signed between a utility provider and the county. And in this case, the PUD agree on the terms and conditions of the franchise agreement. They will be responsible to pay for any relocations as a result of a public works project. That's really the franchise agreement, what it states. Whether that can evolve into, you know, any legal steps, that's always the possibility. But this franchise agreement covers that specifically, not just to PUD, but also to all the utilities.
I mean, I'm sure we're not an entity that's solely, there's other entities out there that have to have went through this. And there must be court cases that say, yep, you're in the driver's seat, you get to make the call, and the PUD has to pay. I'm just curious, I like to find things out ahead of time before I'm sitting on the 8 ball waiting. I see the co-chair's got his hand up there.
Go ahead, Commissioner Munster.
I would just kind of point out that if they had a legal basis to object to that, that letter would have been worded quite a bit differently.
Well, you'd think so.
But, you know, this has to happen in every, you know, like if we put a roundabout in, right? Don't all the utilities have to move the, you know, location? We don't get a bill for that, right? That's just kind of how.
Correct.
So
we only get a bill, and when those utilities are in private property, and we affect those, which is utilities located in private property are not covered by the franchise agreement. So if you have exercised your decision-making process, particularly with PSC, where we have to pay because we
out on Mullen Road, we had to pay,
we have to pay because they had utilities on private property. The improvements went to that property after we purchased the necessary right away, and they had to relocate, and it was our cost. In this case, any utility that is currently in the county's right away, that is the purpose and intent of the franchise agreement. So you're absolutely correct, Commissioner Munster. When a road project occurs, whether it's telephone, communications, water, sewer, they have to pay for the relocations, including the city of Lacey when they built the extension of Mullen Road, I believe, right?
Chair, could I do a follow-up?
Yes, sir, go ahead.
Okay, I guess my concern is that some of these developments were put in, I don't know, maybe back in the 20s, I don't know. And they might have had a right-of-way of 20 feet when, you know, that might have been allowed when they put that development in place. I don't know if those right-of-ways were expanded and purchased, you know, by the county, or if citizens bought off and just signed off. But we could have segments maybe through there that the right-of-way is not 60 feet. And so the whole water line might be running along one side of the road or something when they put that in to service. Everybody just signed off on it, but in reality, maybe it's in private property. I don't know the answer to that. I always like to be cautious, that's all. If something like that develops, the same as we ended up paying for a power pole move over at Mullen Road, and I think that was $100,000 or something. There was a lot of money that we had to, all of a sudden we had to fork out. I don't know if we anticipated that or not. We probably found out at some point, but I'm just wondering, that's the only thing I'm just asking questions about. I hope it's all covered. I hope we don't get surprised. I hate surprises.
Well, I don't think we can guarantee you being surprised or not.
Well, I don't know, just, those are issues that, I know right-of-way issues, width and stuff like that. We dealt with one sometime back in which right-of-way issue, and we had to go in and condemn some properties on a road to enhance the right-of-way. So we've seen strange things happen, and I just don't want strange things to get us a bill for $1 million that we weren't anticipating.
The examples that you highlighted, I don't think it's applicable in this particular location.
Yeah, okay.
So a suggestion, maybe when, I will bring this matter again when the Public Works is ready to provide you with the result of the study and what will be the preferred alternative to address the Country Club fish barrier passage. And then you will have a global conversation on everything.
Hey, Scott, would you just humor me a little bit and take a look at the plat map and stuff when that was put together and see if there isn't something hanging fire like that?
Yeah, we'll certainly check that out. And that is part of what we do on every project. And I believe, and perhaps Teresa can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe this neighborhood was platted in the mid-70s or so.
Oh.
And so, yeah, certainly some of those back from 100 years ago. The right-of-way is not always consistent, but I believe on this one it was mid-70s or so, Teresa?
72, I think.
Okay. Any follow-up? Are we good on that topic? More to come is what I'm hearing.
More to come.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Perfect. Next item is live stream board meetings.
Yeah, Commissioners, I introduced this item, and it's included in your packet, a recommendation that I had back in January, and that was in the heels of moving forward, having the room 280 open to the public. Soon after that, the majority of the board closed. The Omicron variant was raging and mask mandates was in place. Considering that the mask mandates will drop most likely, and for county government, I do expect to have the LNI guidance today and maybe tomorrow. And also, as a result, the room 280 will be open to the public. So this is a particular proposal for the board to consider whether we have specific items, specific regular meetings that you have. They can be both hybrid, live stream, as well as access to the public. And the other one is no live stream, and the board room will be open to the public regardless. And so this proposal before you is to have a hybrid live streaming, as we have done, as well as obviously open to the public. Room 280 will be agenda settings, Board of County Commissioners, Board of Health meetings, the Transportation Benefit Districts, all work sessions, and all budget work sessions. It will not be live streamed, as a recommendation, will be a new employee orientation the regular appointment directors meetings that you have, the regular elected officials meeting that you have, the commissioners check-in, the Superior Court update, the executive sessions, open and close, obviously, jail resources team, and commissioners planning session. And this is recommendation from staff. And also as a footnote, the conference call option will stop on March 14, since the boardroom will be open and to the public. So this is before you.
Okay, first thoughts, commissioners. Commissioner Edwards, we'll start with you.
Okay, so we're gonna keep everything the same on the top, on those 6 under live stream and room 280 open, right? Everything stays the same. But we're going to stop having the conference call option. I don't understand exactly what that is. We're gonna quit the phone business. So, but isn't the phone business that we provide here, for an example, it's on right now, right? Isn't that a benefit to the public that can listen in to what their elected officials are doing at, I don't know, minimal inconvenience to, maybe people want to know, but they don't want to drive in here, for an example. But there's a topic on our agenda that they might be interested in, but they don't have a computer, so they can call in. So I question that. So I don't know if you want to address that individually, or do you want me to go for a few more?
That is up to the chair.
Do you want me to go a few more, Chair, and then? Okay. So I have a concern on why we would not provide access to our constituents, I guess, by phone. The other one is on commissioners' check-in and our planning sessions. Oftentimes, on both of those, we provide direction. We'll give thumbs up, thumbs down, move ahead, no, I disagree, let's take it off, whatever. But those are actually discussions and decisions that I think the public has a right to be aware of. Now, legally, I don't know if that's part of the deal or not, but I like to be as open and upfront with the public as I can possibly be, and let them know when I have an argument about this, not an argument, a discussion about this or that, where I stand, so they know where I'm at on any particular issue at any given time. So those are just a couple. New employee orientation. I don't know, even the Board of County Commissioners and appointed directors, a citizen that was interested in civics, for an example, could certainly sit in on that, maybe on the phone or what we're doing here now, and get a pretty good idea of county government working. And although we don't usually make any decisions, it's informative for the public to see what we're doing to them or for them, I guess, however you want to look at it. So I just question how much of this we should eliminate, even our Board of County Commissioners and elected officials when we interact. Yes, generally we don't do anything, but the citizens do have an opportunity to see what the clerk thinks about this or that, or the auditor. And so I don't know, I kind of like more is better for me. More openness is better. So I could go over that, like, I don't know, Superior Court update. Okay. Yeah, not much happening on that. We got a problem with jury trials, whatever it is. I can see certain ones here, jail resource team, maybe that wouldn't be needed to be on there. So, but I think we're being too broad on that second category of.
So as a matter of reminder, prior to February 2020, we didn't have any live stream options, and we didn't have any conference call options. We evolved into the pandemic to provide those services. And the proposal here is how we move forward after this is settling down in terms of the cases and everything else. Just a point of clarification, because this proposal is not like I'm taking anything away, because prior to 2020, February, we didn't have live stream options, but we didn't have any conference call options. So this is I believe, a hybrid as to what the proposal is. It's a point of clarification.
Commissioner Menzer.
So I agree that this is, if we follow this structure that's proposed, it's way more access than the public ever had to anything prior to the pandemic. We're already hamstrung by the 3-commissioner system. We talk about it over and over again. The fact that I can't talk to Commissioner Edwards, I can't talk to Commissioner Mejia about any county item of business outside of these public meetings. So we're already hamstrung by that structure. And when we live stream everything, what it does is it creates a political dynamic to our conversations, and there isn't any context in which I can have where the commissioners can have a little more personal, a little more honest, and frank, the kinds of conversations you don't always have. Now, again, they're always open to the public. Someone can always be sitting in the boardroom, but I can tell you that, Commissioner check-in, for example, I mean, we would live stream this whole agenda setting process and the whole board meeting process, but Commissioner check-in's a little less formal, gives us a chance to talk a little more. Same with the planning session. Those are really valuable, and they're not the same when it's all live streamed and we're all under that microscope. And again, there's always a balance, and Washington has a very aggressive Open Public Meetings Act, and we can't have any conversation without the ability of the public to be there. But I think that this proposal strikes a good balance. All the key meetings where we make big decisions are going to be live streamed. Is there ever a decision made at a commissioner's check-in? Yeah, once in a great while. But I think that this is by and large, a good, sensible balance between what we go up against. Now, if we can go to 5 commissioners, I'll be more than happy to revisit this conversation, because then we'll be able to have the contact and conversations with each other that we just simply can't have right now. But given what we're stuck with right now with 3 commissioners, I support this as a balance.
So I have a couple questions because I was not here before this. So I came in when all of our meetings were being live streamed. So prior to February 2020, all meetings were just open to the public. Is that what I'm hearing?
That is correct.
Um,
I mean, the room 280 was open to the public for every meeting the board had.
Commissioner Edwards, you do say you want to go back to normal.
Well, I guess just kind of like union negotiations with bargaining units. It's not what you did for me yesterday. It's what are you doing for me today and tomorrow. And it's always hard to go back. And I just think that open is better. That's just where I'm at. I do understand what Commissioner Menzer is referring to. That is why I'm advocating for 5 commissioners. Exactly. So we can have those interactions and discussions that we don't have to have 24-hour notice to have that discussion with a fellow seatmate. I think that's great. But in the meantime, I really do, my preference is, now if you could put a dollar amount on this, that this, by adding this, whatever this is, say commissioner's check-in. Okay, if we add that, it's gonna cost us another $10,000. If we add the commissioner's planning session, that's another 10, whatever. So if you had a dollar amount, then I'd probably reconsider something like that. But just merely to do things that are not readily available to the public, just to flip a channel on or to observe what's going on. I'm just a big advocate of open government 100%. Not that Ty is referring to anything other than that. I'm not saying that. I understand what he's referring to, and it's just that I guess I'm a little stricter in that interpretation of open government and what that entails. That's all. So, I see the county manager's got that.
So I will not be able to bring, the dollars and cents. What is going to cost us $10,000.
Well, I mean, just something.
I do have to tell you, it requires resources. It requires resources to come here, turn the video on, turn the video off. So resources are required to do this. Whether I can quantify whether it's that $100 or $10,000, I don't think I will be able to do that, but that's my comment on that.
So with commissioners check-in, I mean, usually during that time is when we report out on committees and what we're doing, or if there's any new commissioner item. And so with that, I know that, usually right now they've been kind of canceled because we have other briefings during that time. And those would be televised. I mean, before, was that the general setup of commissioners check-in, just kind of a report in and report out?
Yeah, and as Commissioner Mansur stated, in bring other commissioner items. They really serve a purpose of conversation among the board members. It has been very seldom, if any, the board has taken any actions. If the board is considered taking any actions, I'll make sure that I have an agenda item for you to consider, and we publish that 24 hours in advance. So never has, at least from my memory, has been, the board has taken an action, a commission item, without having listed on the agenda.
Okay. And then with the planning sessions, just one more question, Commissioner Edwards. With the planning sessions, that was the other concern Commissioner Edwards had. I mean, those are usually pretty, they're informal. And it's to talk on a variety of big issues that we have coming up. And so the only difference now would be that it wouldn't be live stream, and then room 280 would open.
So related to the planning sessions, and this is something that I think Commissioner Edwards and Commissioner Mesa participated. We used to go to a different location. And
it was like a mini retreat.
Yeah, it is like a mini retreat. You used to go to the South Beardstown Community College. We used to go to the Public Health Department. We used to go to the Public Works Department main conference room. And by having the live stream requirement, logistically will not be possible. So you'll be bound to have those meetings here, room 280, which, in Commissioner Messer said, mini retreat, that's exactly what it is. It's a planning session for the board to have broader conversations. And as you know, in the planning session, I'll just bring maybe a handful of items for you to have enough time to discuss those items. And chances are that you're not taking any decisions on that. It's more strategic conversations that you engage with your seatmates during these planning sessions.
I want my seatmates to feel free to throw out half-baked ideas at those planning sessions and stuff. That's what it's for, is kind of brainstorming without feeling like, oh my goodness, someone's going to freak out because I just floated a concept to my seatmates and I had no other venue to do that.
Yeah, and even when we have met on a different location, we're required to make that available to the public. And the public have attended on some of those, when the board has met in planning sessions in other locations within the city of Olympia. Because we're required to make sure that it's open to the public and the public have access to your conversations. That doesn't get eliminated because that's state law.
my next question is, I guess it's going to be more towards our PIO on, like, are these sessions really viewed? I know our Board of County Commissioner meetings and our agenda settings are highly viewed by the public. But are any of these other meetings viewed or to that same amount or not?
So the agenda setting is by far the most viewed. I can go back and look. So BoCC meetings and the agenda setting meetings, 240 views, 107 views, but the Thurston Strong update, 34 views. Let me go find a Superior Court update, 30 views. Sorry, scrolling. Commissioners check-in, 31 views. The opening and closing of executive sessions, about 30 views. So they're nowhere near the amount that we get for agenda setting.
Okay, and those are usually our staff too, because I know they're usually,
Exactly.
all of our staff are usually tuning in from the YouTube channel. Okay.
Robin,
go ahead, Robin.
I was just going to ask how many of those are Thurston County employees, but you've already covered that.
Yeah, okay. That was going to be kind of my, like, if these were highly viewed by the public and we were really, and the public was really interested in these, I would be open to having them still be live streamed, but it seems like, you know, it's not really, you know, our agenda settings and our Board of County Commissioner meetings, those are the two highly viewed meetings. So, you know, with that being said, you know, I feel I'm in agreement. And this can always be changed, correct?
Absolutely.
We hear back an uproar of people saying, you know, we want commissioners check-in back on board, then I have a question on commissioners check-in. How would it work when we have presentations, like let's say the Thurston Thrives presentation that came in? Would that count as a work session, or just out of curiosity?
That was mainly an informational for the board.
Okay. Okay. Commissioner Edwards?
What are other jurisdictions doing about this? And what about the conference call option? Is that a big deal? Does that cause more staff intensity? I don't know. I don't know how to do it. I see somebody dials a number, they push mute or not mute, or so. To what extent is it a problem for doing that? But what are the other jurisdictions doing? I suppose others are changing their process as well. So I don't know what they offer.
So for the cities, I know in my check-ins with the cities, they're basically opening up. I haven't checked in with other counties, and I'm, you know, I can definitely do that. But I know for the cities within Thurston County, they're all opening back up, and they're going fully open instead of having that hybrid option, because some of them do not have the capabilities yet to be in a hybrid setting, so they're just opening up.
How about the conference calls? Does that cause additional problems? Or does that defeat the purpose, so to speak, on which Commissioner Menzer was referring to? Maybe, I don't know.
Well, the conference call was opened up. I mean, we didn't have it while we were streaming. It was opened up again because, you know, we closed the boardroom. And so we wanted to give people another chance. But while we were doing the hybrid option, we didn't have a conference call option at all.
That is correct.
And so for me, it's, you know, I don't see a lot of public participation from the conference call.
The conference call was like, we were limiting people to computers, and we wanted to make sure that you didn't have to have a computer to participate in our meetings, because we didn't allow you to come here, and we only allowed you to, you know, so we had to do that to supplement the computer access. But when the boardroom's open, I don't see that. There's so few, from what I can tell. We had a little bit of participation on it early on, but lately there's been almost zero. So I think between computer and in-person access with the hybrid, that's better. Like Ramiro said, that's better than we ever had before. Because now all those folks from Rochester and South County can just Zoom in if they want to save a trip, which they weren't able to do that before.
So what is the pleasure of the board?
So my next question is, are these meetings still, so this is just live streaming, but we'll still have like the hybrid availability, right? The Zooming?
Well, Zooming for.
Or are we just going to be fully in the boardroom is my next question.
No, the conversation's live streaming to the public. The Zoom option, I mean, you can use as commissioners, you can Zoom in anytime. That's a different conversation.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I intermixed both of them.
No, the Zoom option for if a board member wants to join via Zoom, that is continued to be part of that. That's not. It's live streaming, like we're doing it right now to the public.
Okay.
So the proposal from staff is here. So what's the pleasure of the board?
Yeah, just with the, yeah. Oh, I have a thumbs up just with the viewing numbers that Megan has reported out. Commissioner Edwards?
No, I want to have more, as I mentioned, the commissioners check in and commissioners planning. So that's where I'm at.
Okay, so what I'm here is 2-1 based on the entire proposal, right?
I guess so.
Thank you.
Okay, our next is board meeting minutes update.
Yeah, this is, leading to, this would be off. This is going to take only a couple minutes, so we give the floor to Amy.
Yeah, just a brief update on minutes this year. We've implemented a couple of simple yet effective steps, one being to include a due date for minutes when briefings are initially scheduled, and one is an internal tracker, if you will, a spreadsheet that includes the briefing information like date, time, title, staff contacts, if minutes have been received, and if a reminder has been sent. We are giving due dates of 2 weeks after the briefing date. We have already seen great results with this so far this year in ensuring minutes are submitted to us and filed on our end. For board meeting minutes on Tuesdays at 2 p.m., those minutes are finalized and routed for signature no later than the following day, Wednesdays, and they make their way in the signature packet to each of you. This allows us to scan them into Laserfish, which is accessible online to the public the following week when they are approved, along with resolutions, ordinances, and other board-signed documents. And so this has been done since the beginning of this year as well. And that's all I have, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, this is a continued improvement on what we have. As I stated in the past, there's opportunities within managing the meeting minutes. This is an attempt to do even do a better job related to that. Also, in the back end, it was related to staffing levels. So Brandy Miranda was working part-time. She started working full-time as of last Monday, I believe, last Tuesday. So that's a welcome additional help, and we'll continue to manage the meeting minutes and be responsive to have those ready available for the public review on a timely manner.
Okay, questions? Commissioner Edwards, comments?
No, I think we're headed in the right direction on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Menzer?
I agree. Sounds like good changes forward, and I hope that we can get that just kind of standardized procedure in place.
I'm in agreement as well. Thank you so much, Amy. And thank you, County Manager. Okay, COVID-19 restrictions, vaccination testing requirements.
That was, you started the conversation last week on that. It was related to the masking requirements. You already heard some perspective on the masking requirements. You need to have, request additional conversation related to the current resolution, which is 16067, which requires county employees to get vaccinated and dual vaccination to get weekly testing. You heard last week from HR Director Maria Ponte that this resolution, if the intent was to help as many employees get vaccinated, I believe we have reached that level to a great extent. She provided perhaps 97% of employees have reached the vaccination level. Also, the county manager suggested to you last week for you to consider rescinding this resolution in alignment to the local emergency declaration, and that is how the governor is moving forward in terms of rescinding the vaccination requirement for state employees that is attached to the state emergency declaration. That was the suggestion by the county manager last week. I'm speaking in third person. But and the current emergency declaration in the county ends on January 30th, 2022. So if the recommendation by the county manager aligns with that, this resolution 16067 will lapse on June 30th, 2022, if the board doesn't extend that. Also, the benefits of extending this will give the board the ability to extend that declaration, and this may be an additional tool. But again, if, as stated before, if the objective of this resolution was to get as many county employees to get vaccinated, my humble perspective, we have reached that objective with the 97% vaccination rate in the county. So I will leave it at this point. Maria can provide additional perspective. I asked Dr. Abdelmalek and Kurt to be part of this conversation and see where the board would like to go on this particular item.
Okay, I see Commissioner Menzer's hand is raised up. Go ahead, sir.
I'm just going to throw out a proposal and then like to hear what folks have to say about it. I've been thinking a lot about this. I'm sure all of us have. The vaccination percentage is good, and the proposal to align to the state isn't really apples to apples because they're not paying for a testing program that we did. Our testing program was a compromise back last fall. It was an imperfect compromise then, and it's become less perfect as Omicron has developed and evolved. So I guess what I'm thinking is to remove the testing requirement. And in order to align to the state better, have new employees have a vaccination requirement for new employees that would then tie to the emergency declaration, just like the state. But I'm just not sure at this point, the costs and benefits that we're getting at this evolutionary point in this, that we're getting benefit for the additional weekly testing, given where vaccination's at, where Omicron's at, where case rates are at, where, so that's kind of what I'm thinking. I'd like to hear what my seatmates have to say about that, or Dr. A or Maria.
Commissioner Edwards, go ahead.
I agree with Commissioner Menzer.
I'm not fully there yet, honestly. I'm still have concerns, but it's a democratic process, and I understand that. Robin, I see your hand up.
I was just going to say that I had asked Dr. Abdamalik if there was any benefit that county employees receive from continuing to have unvaccinated employees test. So perhaps she could speak to that. She had some interesting data.
Yeah, so in addition to the CDC recommendation, not recommendation, but considerations for testing programs, which of course decrease in utility as transmission rates slow, and the CDC threshold is that moderate threshold. A question that I've been asked is there a different risk of infection between folks who are fully vaccinated, meaning up to date with all of the appropriate boosters and 2 weeks out, compared to folks who aren't fully vaccinated? And so looking at our Washington state data, so the State Department of Health looks at it in 4-week increments. We did just receive, so my numbers are going to be slightly different from what I shared yesterday, but we have received an updated report that looking at the number of folks who at the relative risk of folks who test positive for COVID who are fully vaccinated, so up to date compared to those who aren't. Actually with the new data in the 12 to 64 category, you're looking at 3 times that the risk of testing positive for COVID-19 is 3 times higher in the unvaccinated. And once you get up into the 65 and older category, it's 4 times higher. And this is test positivity. This is not, this is testing positive. This is not hospitalization data. And specifically the 4 weeks that this is looking at is during Omicron. So this is Washington state data from January 26 through February 22. So this is the most recent data that we have available for the state. So there is, so vaccines remain protective, both from severe disease as well as our experience in Washington state, protective against infection as well. So my interest in sharing this is just to share that that when we think about transmission, there is a different risk when somebody is fully vaccinated. And fully vaccinated in this context, just to be clear, is vaccinated with all appropriate doses and 2 weeks out from the last appropriate dose. So for folks that meet criteria for a booster dose, this would be 2 weeks after the booster dose would be what the comparison is.
And this was not just to argue one way or the other, just to ensure that you have the appropriate data.
Commissioner Edwards?
If we think masks are such a good deal, anybody that thinks they're in a threat situation can wear a mask. Now, I personally don't think they work. They don't work on individuals with a beard. I know that from my law enforcement days. I went to many mask outfits and the very extensive masks, and that's how come law enforcement officers didn't have beards in my day. So even the very expensive ones didn't work under those conditions. But right now, these masks that we have on today, and I'm trying to go along with complying, not that I believe it does anything, because anybody that wears glasses can come in out of the cold and try communicating, and right away their glasses fog up. Well, what that is that's your exhale coming out with little minor size droplets, if you will, that begin circulating in the air. And only they condense in your glasses. So it just shows that they don't work. And if you think about a beard, it's kind of like a Brillo pad around there. It doesn't hold anything back. But if those people feel that it gives them some protection, I think people can wear a mask when they come to work and nobody's going to care. They can stay masked up for years to come, I believe. I do think that we're going to have to get to the point where we live with this thing, and I think that's where we're at now. And I don't think that we should be penalizing our employees by making them pay and take time or whatever it is to go through this whole testing thing once a week, because those individuals are, I don't want to make it a detrimental statement, but numbers aren't always exactly what you seem. You can adjust numbers to come out with an end result, but we've got real cases of vaccinated people coming to work here at Thurston County that have had a breakthrough infection and passing it on without ever even knowing it. So I think the vaccination is beneficial for those that are in a threat category and for the outcome. But I don't think we should be penalizing those employees for whatever reason, whether it's religious or health reasons or whatever reason they came up with, that they did not feel a vaccination was to their benefit. And we offer free testing to the public all around. Why can't those employees get one of those free tests? The government mails out free tests in the mail. Why can't we accept that as a test from one of our employees? Why do we continue to penalize just because they didn't get in the line and march off the cliff with everybody else for whatever reason? So I'm very adamant that we're penalizing people unnecessarily, and that's why I'm against this whole mandate thing, and especially when it comes to the testing end of it. If we want to have them tested, okay, accept a test that we give to the public for free or that the government gives out to the citizenry for free. Don't make these people continue to pay.
Commissioner Edwards, I don't think we should penalize the people who have gone through the process and done everything. I've had a lot of employees approach me that are, they're not comfortable and they're looking for jobs, through the state where they have the vaccination mandate because, they're not comfortable in coming back to work, and it's going to be basically open for people who are vaccinated, who are not taking the precautions, who are getting, not going to be getting tested weekly. So I don't think we should be penalizing those employees either. In terms of masking, I have a different opinion than you do. My husband works in healthcare. He was in the middle of it all for these last couple of years. And, we've been able to keep safe because he has been masking. He has been wearing the precautionary PPE every time he has to go and see COVID patients. So we haven't gotten sick because he's been cautious about it, because I've been cautious about it, because we have younger kids and that's who we're doing all this cautionary things for. It's really for our kids. So my opinion is I'm not comfortable with moving forward with this yet. But that's just me.
I guess if I could do a follow-up on that, what about why can't we accept the free test for those employees? That way we're not penalizing anybody. Let them bring a test in, do it in front of their supervisor. I don't care. I don't care how they do it. Go get a free test that the health department gives out, if that's what we're requiring. But why do we have to charge them?
It was the attestation component.
Pardon?
The attestation component.
I don't know what that is.
Because with all the respect, we don't know if that employee was the one who took that home test. And that is why we developed this system, to make sure that we we put the attestation component on this.
What about those home tests that they mail out to you? You can bring that in and do the test right there, poke it in your nose and stick it in the deal.
Well, that requires resources, so that's.
Well, no, they get them for free. They
No,
get them for
but
free.
requires resources to somebody observing that. That's what I mean.
Well, I think a supervisor can take a look while somebody's taking a test. That ain't no big deal. I'm just against penalizing people unnecessarily, and I guess I trust people to do the right thing. Our system is based on trust. Our whole government system. You sign your income tax, you sign your voter thing. You know, it's you. We accept that. I don't know why we can't trust people to make the right decision, but regardless. I guess we're just on a different philosophy here. I think Commissioner Menzer has something to add.
I mean, I'm kind of coming from a slightly different angle. I mean, it's not that I'm about penalizing or not penalizing. I'm just wondering the efficacy of the, it's like we're kind of captives of our own generosity at the beginning. I mean, if we'd gone with the state and the court system and just required vaccination, this would be very simple. But we wanted to be less heavy-handed, and we wanted to support our employees that might have a different point of view. So we created this one test per week system. Now I knew that was already not quite robust enough to really be, like California was doing 2 tests a week, for example, where they had a similar option for employees. But we did it because it was, we were balancing money, we were balancing simplicity, we were balancing administration, we were balancing a lot of different factors. At least I was. I think all of us were. So we came up with this system. Now, Omicron, I think made that even less, it made that 1 test per week system that was imperfect at the inception even less perfect, because that thing sweeps through so quick. I mean, in my case, my daughter had symptoms on a Monday. I had symptoms on a Wednesday. My wife had symptoms on a Friday. Our whole household was down within a week. So what kind of comfort level is a weekly test giving our vaccinated employees when this can spread through vaccinated populations? I was fully vaccinated and boosted, as was my wife and kids. Indiscriminate there. So much faster than Delta. What I was reading, Dr. A can correct me, but it was going like twice as fast in terms of how fast you could contract symptoms from one person to another. So that one test per week was just, and again, it still was very valuable during the Omicron crush, right? Because we're still trying to, manage our hospital resources and get as many people vaccinated as possible. But now that we've turned that corner, I'm just wondering if we're really we've got a somewhat cumbersome, expensive system, and I'm just not sure we're getting the value from it at this juncture. Dr. A can, twist my arm and tell me I'm wrong, but that's where I'm at about this thing. And if there was a way to do, the free test idea, I understand why that's difficult. I just feel like if we've got, and I didn't realize till last week we were at 97%, as Maria had said. I thought it was like 92. So at 97%, if we require new employees to be vaccinated through the end of the emergency, we've got 3% of employees that are coming in with a weekly test. They wouldn't have to do that. Is that putting people at unnecessary risk versus what we're spending in that's what I'm trying to juggle in my head, and just trying to share my thought process with my students.
So what I'm hearing is the Commissioner Menzer, Commissioner Edwards would like to take the weekly testing out of the resolution. So, but I'd like to probably focus, I include that resolution in your packet. If you go to page number 4, please. So if the majority of the board takes the weekly vaccination requirement out of this resolution, the resolution itself becomes extremely difficult to implement because it's not just about taking a component out of this because it has more to it. Because then the only thing is left is all county employees shall be fully vaccinated by October 31st, 2021. That requirement will not apply. Number one.
Where's that part?
Page number 4.
I know, I'm on 4, which
Yeah,
number?
now therefore, number 1.
On number 1 on 4, okay, got it.
So if you take the testing out, that number 1 will not be applicable. So we need to come up with a different type of language to do that. Then obviously the number 2 will come out and number 3 also will come out. And then at that point, it really raises the question whether this resolution could stand by itself, and the board may consider just rescinding the whole resolution as a whole.
I'd vote for that.
What about the new employee element that I talked about?
That could be taken as a different action, if you may, or.
Because I don't want to add to this issue by,
Because logistically it becomes a little complicated for me to follow the majority of the board's direction by taking just a piece out of this resolution. By taking it out, it really, the resolution doesn't stand on its own.
Well, let me just add something to that, if I may, Chair. Why couldn't this just say, in lieu of vaccination, it will be required to submit a negative COVID-19 test result every week after October 31st, 2021. It doesn't say that a supervisor or anybody needs to stand there and watch them take the test. It just says bring a test in. Basically what it said, we don't have to change anything. Just let them bring a test in. I don't think it means much. I agree with Commissioner Menzer on this. I don't think there's a benefit, but allow them to bring a test in.
Help me understand it, is the how is the issue.
How?
Yeah, I mean, who they're gonna be submitting the test to? Are we gonna have the supervisor, because we explore all these options at the beginning. Are we gonna put the supervisors willingly or unwillingly to be the test police, and how the information by employees has to be protected? And that's how we develop the system, that an employee who provides, nobody knows who is testing, who's not.
So what's the big deal? It doesn't work. I'd make you the policeman for the vaccination.
I receive a report from the board, from the Office of County Commissioners, related to this particular matter, but I don't share that. I don't share whether it's who tests or what, because each individual who has chosen to go on a weekly testing, they have the right to be protected that information. And having now the supervisors be the individuals who check in, I think we're going to be violating that confidentiality. So goes back to this resolution. If we taken pieces out of that, this resolution does not stand on its own anymore.
Well, I think we've created a nightmare from the time we started this, but that's neither here nor there. We're where we are today, and I think we ought to just get rid of the whole dang thing myself, but just say, bring a test in. If you think it's an honor system, ask if you got tested. I don't care. No, you can't even ask, can you?
You cannot even ask.
I want to do a time check because it's 12:33, so I
yeah.
Robin had hands up. No.
No, I was just going to jump into as a supervisor of someone who is not vaccinated, I don't want the bio stuff coming into the building. I don't want to be the person who has to interpret. Does it have one line or two lines? I don't want any of that.
Yeah, and I'll add that when I was doing the research for bringing in a vendor, that there are certifications that they have. There's a CLIA waiver, and I can't recall what the acronym is, but it certifies that they know that what they're doing. We have biohazard waste containers for eliminating that waste. So I would not recommend requiring our supervisors, which I think would be a logistical nightmare to try to implement that kind of a process.
Dr. A, I saw your hand as well. Go ahead.
I was just sharing Maria and Robin's concerns, and that if a supervisor interprets the test, then the facility would need to be operating under a CLIA waiver. So I just wanted to share that piece. I'm just echoing.
Then they have to wear a mask because it's a health-related matter.
Jesus, criminy. Why don't we just shoot, why don't we get in the marathon race and then shoot ourselves in the foot and see if we can win? It just ain't happening the way we're doing business. But I don't know why we can't just trust the employee. Just ask the employee, hey, I tested at home. Good enough.
You cannot ask an employee whether they have tested or not, Commissioner.
Well, we're telling them they can't come to work without doing this. That's the same thing. I mean, we're identifying them through that requirement. So I think, you know, we've created a mountain out of a molehill, in my estimation. I don't want to get this stupid virus, don't get me wrong. I don't want it because I'm in the threat category and I hope I don't get it. But I'm also taking care of myself to make sure that I don't get it. I'm vaccinated.
So, as a saving grace, Commissioner, you voted against this resolution.
I know I did.
You didn't create this monster.
From day one, I voted against it because I thought it was inappropriate. But anyway, so.
Anyways, I just want to provide my perspective on this because logistically becomes a little more complicated. So.
I'm still for getting rid of the test if we can't just ask them. Hey, did you test? I don't know. And we're not bringing any biohazard in if we go by the honor system. We trust them with millions of dollars worth of equipment and stuff. I don't know why we can't trust them to do the right thing with whatever they're doing.
Okay, so what's next, County Manager?
I'm still for getting rid of it. Getting rid of the testing. I don't care what problems it causes. We've done that to ourselves and we shouldn't be penalizing our employees.
So just, I mean, to be clear, I think we did the right thing. We got the vaccination rates that we have in the county shows that we made a huge benefit to our employees. I don't think we're penalizing our employees. So I come at this from a different angle. I just don't think a weekly test is, given Omicron's characteristics, is really accomplishing anything. But I would want any change to the policy to be paired with a policy that new until the end of the emergency, new employees are going to need to be vaccinated. So then we're aligned to the state, and this is very much simpler, and we don't add to the problem. So
maybe
if the board wants to go there, I would vote for that. But if not, then that's fine too. I'm just giving my point of view.
So then it's a different proposal that perhaps we review this resolution to include the new employees to Thurston County will be required to get vaccinated, period. And that requirement would lapse at the end of the local emergency. That's the proposal.
No, I'm not going to vote for that because I think we eliminate good employees by requiring them.
I'm just verbalizing that proposal.
If we don't have a vote for a change, then we stick with what we got, I guess. It sounds like we're all three on 3 different pages.
Yeah, it sounds like all 3 different pages.
How about this? We're going to get something from L&I today. I thought I heard the doctor say that L&I is going to come out, and if they agree that everything's done next week, then it's all done next week, right?
I don't think they will agree that it's done. They're just given guidance on limiting the masking requirements.
So I would say that it is worth waiting to see what L&I directs, because they're going to come in with, hopefully, they will clarify not only the masking, but also social distancing, keeping sick employees out of the workplace. There are quite a few elements of the DOSHA directive. So hopefully we'll get a new directive in the next couple of days that align with what the governor is saying. And I have some ideas, Romero, of how we could modify this without totally having to blow the whole thing. But they're not easy to explain on the fly, so maybe you and I could work on this and bring it back.
Yeah, so let's add this on to next week's agenda. And it looks like there's no congruency. And more to come next week on this. So we'll add this item next week, and hopefully LNI has released some new information. So with that, it is 12:39. Commissioners, is there something that's in?
I just want to highlight the public comment you received last week.
Okay.
It is going to take me only 2 minutes.
Okay.
And you received public testimony from Ms. Chami Rowe. She is the owner of the Oyo Hotel. So in response to the testimony that you received last week from Mr. Rowe, I'd like to clarify that the county vacating the quarantine and isolation hotel, which is the Oyo that we're utilizing by Public Health and Social Services, was solely in contractually related issues, in which it was a default. The building was experiencing extensive plumbing issues and flooding that created hazardous conditions in multiple floors. This resulted in many areas of the hotel being unusable for guests and staff due to safety concerns. There's specific item on the contract, chapter section 9.16, that clearly outlines the necessary steps to address the safety concerns. As a result of the deteriorating building conditions and the inability to address the clear and present health and safety concerns, unfortunately, we are not able to continue under the terms and conditions of this agreement, because we have an obligation to those guests that we put them in their isolation and quarantine to be in a safe environment. The health and safety concerns of the tenants really should be and continue to be a paramount objective of the county. And at this point, it's not longer tenable for the county to use this facility under those conditions. We have, and we continue to have conversations with Ms. Rowe as to how we can resolve the issues related to this lease agreement. So I'd just like to highlight on that. This is really a contractual matter in which we have been very diligent on making sure that through inspections, this is a safe environment, which concluded that it isn't at this point. And the last item, also public testimony you received from Israel. It is related to the rental assistance, and we have the staff from Public Health reach out to her, and that conversation has occurred. And that's my report on the public testimony, and I will highlight this afternoon as well.
Okay, questions, comments, Commissioner Edwards?
No, I'm good for the day.
Commissioner Menser?
No comments on that. I just, as a really quick thing to throw out, I want staff to, I hope we're a month away from getting our magic 300,000 number from the state. So I want us to be thinking about what steps need to happen to get our 5 commissioner proposal to the ballot. I had a meeting with the auditor earlier this week, and there's a lot that goes into it. So I don't want us to lose our sense of timing and next steps on that.
Thank you.
Really quick, when is our planning session set for?
May 5th.
Okay.
Cinco
Maybe
Mayo.
this is something that we can definitely add on to the planning session. By that point, we'll hopefully have the OFM numbers.
Yeah, absolutely.
We should have them, what, beginning of April? End of April? Do we know?
By the end of April, we get any numbers, I believe.
Okay, so then it'll be perfect timing for us to discuss it. Okay. Any other commissioner item that's quick? That needs to be heard?
No, I'm not saying a thing.
Okay, with that, thank you so much. We are adjourned and we will be back at 2. Thank you.
Thank you.